to get both, keep guests and animals happy and stay profitable.
And that's thanks to the zoo's new director, Maxwell Jeffries.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Good morning.
Now, what's the most profitable part of the zoo? The elephants, the tigers?
No. The gift shop, okay? Food court. But now the entire zoo is the gift shop. So you come to the zoo, you look around, you see something you like, make me an offer. I'm a businessman. I want to make people happy. You're probably familiar with the old saying, don't feed the animals.
Oh, right, of course.
Okay, well, that's old-fashioned thinking. At our zoo, you can feed the animals.
Anything you want?
Anything you want. Oats, eggs, batteries, you name it. And we also invented a new tiered membership system. So for your standard membership, you go to the zoo, you get to see the animals. For your gold level membership, you get to pick any two animals, make them fight each other. Yeah. And then with a platinum, you get 1 hour alone in the zoo. No questions asked. Yeah.
Wow.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live. You can join the show. You can bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And it looks like the news has forced us into the position of having to talk about the third rail issue of abortion. And
which is really unfortunate, man, because I don't know about you guys, but it's not something I enjoy talking about.
No, I don't either. But I would rather talk if we can avoid, just the general abortion discussion. I doubt we'll be able to because, usually this sets off phone calls and that leads to those discussions. But I think we should talk more about what's happening. And what's happening is last night during the show, we didn't know. No one called in to let us know about it. We didn't catch the news. But in the middle of the show, apparently last night, the news broke. Politico.com released a leaked draft.
Leaked. Keywords here, leaked.
Mm-hmm. Leaked draft of what is going to purportedly be a decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. Again, it's not official, but it probably will be, to overturn Roe versus Wade. And now, less than 24 hours later.
And basically hand it back down to the states.
What exactly did Roe versus Wade do?
As I understand it, I'm not a legal scholar.
Right.
I have not put much time into researching Roe versus Wade. But my understanding is Roe versus Wade prohibits banning abortions at the national level, meaning that states that would want to ban abortions are unable to do so due to this Supreme Court decision.
Okay.
So the overturning of that decision would put us back in a situation which the U.S. was in prior to 1970, whatever it was that Roe versus Wade was decided, where each state government has to set their own or can set their own prohibition if they want to on abortion.
And the precedent they used was the 14th Amendment and basically a woman's right to privacy. So basically,
this is what they used in Roe versus Wade, or
the original 1973 ruling.
Okay.
I don't know. There have been other legal battles since then, and I'm not familiar with all of those. I think there was one even as recently as like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, conservatives are constantly. This is like their big issue, right? So they're always charging out there to talk about abortion and Roe versus Wade. I remember it happened during the Trump campaign, at least when he was running for office. He talked about, exactly this idea of allowing the states to make their own decisions, allow Mississippi to decide, allow California to decide, and whatever each state wants is best for that particular state. And in general, I think that's probably an okay way to do it. The issue, as far as I can tell, is that Mississippi would want to prosecute people for going to, Nevada to get an abortion or whatever. No, they wouldn't prosecute people for going to Nevada to hire a prostitute or whatever else people may do in Nevada. But on that one particular issue, there are states already talking about doing this.
Well, basically, they would argue that you're leaving the state to kill something. So, I mean, killing is killing.
Something aside, you're leaving the state to break the laws of that state. Right, just like if you were,
use the prostitution because that's illegal in Mississippi.
Right. It's illegal in every other 49
states.
All
right, in that case, that's kind of hypocritical.
Of course it is.
And that's my issue with it. I was like, okay, if Mississippi wants to ban abortion, I'm not a fan of that, but at least the people in Mississippi can leave to go to another state to get their abortion if that's what they so choose. But under the ways that Mississippi and other conservative states would like to do it, no, they're going to make it illegal for you to do that. Like in Texas right now, you can be sued for helping someone leave the state of Texas to go get an abortion.
Wow. Well, this, of course, has set people off.
Oh, yeah.
It is already, you mentioned, Arya, on your drive to the studio tonight, you saw there were approximately 40 protesters in downtown Keene. We are less than 24 hours from this leaked document. There are already people protesting outside of the Supreme Court. That started last night.
Hey, I guess Ukraine wasn't doing it for them.
Yeah,
I wonder how many.
This is the new thing.
This is the new MAD. This is the new mass formation. The people, the hypnotized, have found a new enemy, and they're banding. And this is huge. Yes, considering that this is not even 24 hours old.
40 people for Central Square, by the way, in Keene, New Hampshire, is a large protest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when we go to the break, I'm going to go grab the SD card on my dash cam because I'm curious now because we can screenshot it and count how many people there actually were, but I'm willing to bet it was at least 40, possibly more.
Dozens, at least. And that's, it's not George Floyd level yet. That was the biggest thing I've ever seen in Keene, but that had weeks to garner a bunch of talk and support and planning and that sort of thing. So first day, less than 24 hours is pretty impressive. So people on the left are freaking out. They lost Twitter. Right. This has been a big couple of weeks, right? As far as conservatives,
only like a week. I mean, all of this is just coming together so quick. I mean, and all the craziness is coming from the same people.
Well, the conservatives are also, crazy in their own way, of course, and they are feeling victorious. They're doing some grave dancing on the liberals, acting like, we won, and now the Supreme Court's going to repeal all the gun laws. It's like, come on. Okay, they may have made this one decision that you guys like, but there's no way.
Constitutional carry has been growing in this country for this whole year. More and more states are jumping on that wagon. Yeah, pretty soon we'll all be owning nukes.
Well,
I'm looking forward to it.
I sure hope so, man.
And tanks.
I have no
so
expectation that the Supreme Court is going to do anything to weaken the federal government's power over people as far as gun control is concerned. But that's what people, they're all on a high right now. The conservatives are on a high, and of course there's always the libertarians that sort of lean conservative, and so those guys are also out there.
Those are the ones I don't get. The pro-life libertarians or the anti-abortion libertarians. I don't understand where they're coming from, and I don't think they understand the issue that we're discussing here. We're talking about eviction and nothing else. We're not talking about committing murder. We're talking about evicting a person from one's own private property.
But the problem is that the core tenet of libertarianism is the protection of the individual.
The protection of private property and the individual, right? So the woman's body is still the woman's. The fetus is a trespasser.
But when does the fetus become a human being?
It doesn't matter.
That's
the question.
What the big question is.
That question doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a human being or not. It is trespassing. Do you have the right to shoot a trespasser?
It's not. It's a part of you. You can't.
It's not a part of you. It's a distinctly separate human being.
It's not like. But it's not like a. But it's not like a cancer.
Sure.
The correct question here is, when does that fetus become
that's an irrelevant question.
Human being? It doesn't matter.
It's a question you can never answer.
Mother is
the reason why it's irrelevant is because you will never get people to agree.
Well, it's irrelevant because this is a matter of trespassing. It's not about murder or anything else.
And so is the first 10 years of the kid's life. Is it also a cancer for the first 10 years of its life where it can't protect, it can't solve, it can't do anything on its own, and it would die if you left it on its own. It would die.
If you have a child, are you required to take care of that child up until X number of years?
By law, you are. But
I think by society, you would also be expected to take care of something that you created, and that I think would be the argument against the trespasser argument, is that this thing didn't just get there by accident. It wasn't some sort of, unless it was a rape. Right, like it didn't get there by accident.
No, but that doesn't mean
somebody
you can't
spread
withdraw
their legs.
Consent, right? You can invite someone over your property, and as soon as you're like, "Hey, no, I don't want you here anymore," you say, "No, you can't. You're trespassing if you stay." Just because you invited them over doesn't mean they continue to have any right to be there once you tell them they have to leave.
But when you tell that full-grown adult trespasser to get off your property, he doesn't immediately die because he's having to leave your property.
That's why I didn't say anything about telling them to leave. I said, "Do you have the right to shoot and kill someone who is trespassing?"
Generally, no. You have the right to remove them from your property, and if they're a threat to you, then yes, you would have a right to shoot them.
Good point.
Yeah.
But still, you're not killing the fetus by removing it. I mean, you are killing it by removing it, but that's not really your fault. You're just terminating a pregnancy.
If you paid a doctor to have it taken out of you, you are the main cause of that fetus's death, even though you paid someone else to do it for you.
So this whole discussion proves the point that even in this room, there are disagreements that are fairly,
By the way,
and they're good faith disagreements.
By the way, all right, so I'm going to defend the fetus's life, but I'm also up to the first trimester. Anything before that to the second trimester, yes, go ahead. But after that, when you have to start cutting the baby up to get it out,
well, that line gets drawn.
You just crossed the line there.
And that's the thing. Everybody draws that line somewhere else. You draw it at the first trimester. Some ultra-conservative is going to draw it at the moment of conception.
Heart flutter, yeah.
There's moments. You can share your thoughts with us. 603-283-6160.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. And I don't want to get into a fight with anybody about where life begins, because the fact is, no one is ever going to agree on this.
No, I agree with that statement entirely. I mean, we can't even define what life is.
There's that. We don't know what consciousness really is.
Here, let's look at it this way then. To just all, maybe we can agree on this. When the child, the fetus, can be removed from the mother, and can survive even with the help of equipment, medical equipment. When the child can be removed and can live, can survive, that's when the child is viable.
I don't know if I really even want to agree with that, right? Because it has to get to that point first of all, and I don't have a womb, I don't have a uterus, I can't.
It's only like 25, 30 weeks. And that's a long time too, by the way.
He's just saying that's when you define it as viable, and I don't disagree.
It's not my decision to make.
I don't think he's saying you wouldn't still be able to pull it out at that point, because then you could pull it out and put it in a vat or whatever.
And this isn't new. This has been going on for years. They have been getting really good at it these last 20, 30 years of keeping these very, very young fetuses alive.
Well, and this is where I think that the marketplace should come into play here, and that the libertarian position on abortion should always be that the government should stay the F out of this issue and let the market decide how to handle this. So if somebody...
I'm not even sure the market can, reach any sort of meaningful consensus on this.
It doesn't need to. The market is individual actors doing whatever they want.
But you're always going to have that group who are like, it's a human being and you're killing it.
I understand that. And I think those people, they should go live in their own place together. And I think that's...
And by the way, that's what's going to happen.
I hope that's what happens
when this gets overturned. You're going to have your red and your blue states, and it's going to be even more polarized than it already is.
That's the way it ought to be.
You're going to have people uprooting and moving.
That's the good side of this. That's the really good part about this whole thing.
Until we go to war with each other.
Well, I mean, I would hope that doesn't happen.
And this might be...
Well, the libertarians won't go to war, right? The conservatives and the liberals, they can go to war with each other, but the libertarians aren't going to want to have anything to do with that. Just let us have our New Hampshire here, and you guys fight each other to the death.
And
that's what you want to do.
I say this all the time, hopefully we're far enough north from Mordor is right there on our boundaries below us, Massachusetts, I'm talking about you. That's what I fear, that we're not far enough away from some of these big cities where people are going to they're going to get out. You have your food shortages. You have your crazy policies that are screwing everyone over. I work in a little town just north of us, and there has to be 24 brand spanking new homes that are being built right now, all from New Yorkers, New Jerseyans, a couple from California. These people are escaping their horrible hellholes, and they're coming out here to the woods. Now these are richers. And this is, they're now their neighbors with cow farmers, so it's a very weird justification of farmers and rich liberals.
So you really think?
I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about some of these younger riffraff who are going to be starving, who are initially going to flee to their state to have their abortions. And then their policies don't work in these liberal hellholes. They don't last forever because that's how socialism works. It only lasts as long as to use up the other guy's money. And then what are they going to do?
Well, it's not our problem. But I am curious.
It's going to become our problem.
Well, not if they move to some liberal hellhole and they leave New Hampshire.
That's not our problem. And that's why I mentioned how close we are to a huge liberal hellhole.
Well, what are you suggesting? What's going to happen exactly? Talking about Boston,
balkanization is definitely going to happen.
What's that? What does that mean?
That means the states are going to become further and further polarized.
Great.
And
you think there's going to be a war that comes out of this? You think the conservatives are going to invade the liberal states and start killing people?
I'm afraid of city states, huge, popularized city states running out of food.
I think it's more likely that the liberals would try to invade the conservatives.
But they're a bunch of pussies. They're not going to be able to do that.
Coming out to the countryside where all the dairy farmers are, where all the all the people who are making things, making food, and taking over. And it won't work in some states like Texas. It's not going to work very well in Texas. Austin, they can deal with Austin.
If you're talking about people from the city coming out to the countryside, they're going to get killed. Yeah. I mean, people in the country, they know how to shoot a gun.
The first wave, yeah. But it's going to keep coming and coming and coming, and there are only so many bullets.
Well, I don't know. I think that's a little ridiculous, the idea that the liberals are going to invade a place where they have no experience. Like, you look at the military, and, I mean, you've been in the military, Conan. Would you say that the people...
Which, by the way, are a lot of conservatives.
That's what I'm saying. You think the people on the right are going to be able to take the people on the left? I think so. In a fight, absolutely.
But but cops, you say you think there are a lot of conservatives too.
A lot of them are.
But then you go to the big cities and you got them union cops, them union thugs. It's a whole different type right there.
I don't know. They're still conservatives, right? They probably still approach things from a conservative
a Chicagoan
viewpoint.
cop, I'm not so sure. They're probably
some are.
Blue Dog Democrat all the way through, union boys.
Well, okay, but
I don't know if I can even believe in the existence of a liberal cop.
They're out there.
Like a progressive, Black Lives Matter, trans rights, LGBTQ, IIIAP, whatever they call themselves, cops.
Eli, the sheriff, went to...
Yeah, but he's a conservative. He just calls himself a Democrat.
But he went down to the George Floyd thing the BLM. He had a sign.
For votes.
Yeah, of course. He was pandering, obviously.
Does he really feel that way is the question.
There are definitely some cops that are not as ultra-right or conservative. I mean, I've run into some of those people over the years. But I don't know, Conan. I feel like that the idea that the food's going to stop coming, why would that be the case? I mean, the conservatives are going to be making money selling food to the cities.
They just culled, they're almost up to 30 million chickens they just culled in the last couple of months.
Who?
The chicken farmers, because of this new avian flu that's supposedly, allegedly, spreading throughout the country. So there you go. You got your chicken. The prices of food are up. They're skyrocketing. You got the price of fuel is skyrocketing.
I just don't believe that these people in the cities who can't even, they're too afraid to even show their face, are going to go grab a gun and try to take over a farm. I just don't buy that.
There's also the reality that, they may have culled 30 million chickens, and they did. They genocided a ton of animals within the last few years, using COVID as an excuse largely. However, there's still plenty of food, man.
At the moment.
No one's starving. Even if they kill all of the wildlife in the United States, all of the cows, all of the chickens, people still aren't going to starve to death because there's plenty of produce. There's plenty of grains. Do you
realize how fast our local grocery stores will empty if the trucks stop rolling?
Oh, of course. Everything goes away if the trucks stop rolling.
Yeah, but why would the trucks stop rolling? They would just stop bringing in meat. There's still plenty to eat.
Well, there's no doubt that there are supply issues right now. Every week I'm in the same grocery store and they can't stock the milk shelves. They can't keep them stocked. There's constantly
They probably have plenty of almond milk though.
No, the whole milk shelf area is just thin. They don't even have enough units to put one on the front. They try to put one on the front, right? So it looks like it's full. They don't even have enough to do that right now. So, I mean, I see where Conan's coming from with the concern. I just more of on your side, Arya, of I don't think that given a relatively free market that we will see starvation in the United States. Look at Venezuela. I mean, they are hungry there, but they're still not quite starving
yet.
There's more coming up. Well, what happened was the market started to act in Venezuela because the government said, all right, well, we'll just let dollars be and stop arresting people for using dollars, and it changed everything. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court has ordered an immediate investigation into the leak of a draft opinion that suggests a majority of justices are preparing to overturn the landmark Roe v. Wade decision that has kept abortion legal in America since 1973. John Roberts says the leak was an egregious betrayal and an effort to undermine the court's integrity. He's confirmed the authenticity of the February document, but insists it is not the final ruling. Abortion rights activists fear it presages the rollback of the Roe decision. And President Biden today called the draft a fundamental shift in American jurisprudence.
It concerns me a great deal that we're going to, after 50 years, decide a woman does not have a right to choose. The idea that we're going to make a judgment that is going to say that no one can make the judgment to choose to abort a child based on a decision by the Supreme Court, I think goes way overboard.
On Capitol Hill, fury, Republicans accused the Democrats of orchestrating the leak in a bid to galvanize their supporters ahead of November's midterm elections. But Democrat Charles Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, accuses some of the justices of lying during their confirmation hearings.
Several of these conservative justices, who are in no way accountable to the American people, have lied to the U.S. Senate, ripped up the Constitution, and defiled both precedent and the Supreme Court's reputation, all at the expense of tens of millions of women who could soon be stripped of their bodily autonomy.
If the final decision echoes the draft, it will leave it up to America's 50 states to determine their own abortion laws. In other news, the UN says the first 100 evacuees from the besieged Ukrainian steel plant in Mariupol have now made it to safety. FSN's Will Denzelo is on assignment in Riga in Latvia, outside the reach of the Kremlin's reporting restrictions.
They managed to get that 101 people out of the Azovstal steel plant that, of course, has been under incredibly severe bombardment for a number of days, as Russian shelling even continued after those 100 or so people managed to escape. Of course, this all comes after a few weeks ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he wanted such a strong besiegement of the Mariupol area that not even a fly could get in. So there are certainly massive concerns on reports that Russian forces are now moving into that area.
And the US government says women's basketball star Brittany Griner is being wrongfully detained by Russia. It's the first time the US has used that phrase. She was arrested in Moscow in February on drugs charges. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. Bring up whatever is on your mind. A lot of people on social media in the last 24 hours have been talking nonstop about this. Can we call it a Supreme Court decision yet? I guess not officially.
Nope.
Because it's leaked.
It's a leaked exchange between the Supremes, just talking about how they're going to, I guess they're just passing notes. Really?
Was it an exchange? I thought it was the draft of the opinion.
It's a draft, but I believe they exchange them amongst each other and get second opinions and whatnot. And one of their aides, most likely one of the liberal aides, decided that this was an event that needed to be, or it's turned into an event, but this was news. And as far as I understand, it's the first time anything like this has ever happened.
No.
Yeah, it's not, but the media is in large ways painting it like it is. Like, oh, this completely damages, the sanctity of the Supreme Court and all this other. Now partisanism has taken over the Supreme Court.
Are you saying this has happened before?
Yes, the news is reporting today, NPR, I believe, reporting that this actually happened on Roe versus Wade. It was also leaked.
50 years ago.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It doesn't happen very often. That was probably like the last time it happened. But this is an initial draft majority opinion, Conan. This isn't just like a little message that was sent from one justice to another justice. This is a 90-something page draft opinion. This is what they are going to release. Some version of this will be released, presumably, whenever the hell the schedule is to do things like that with the Supreme Court. I don't know if that's in a few weeks or in a few months. I don't know what schedule they run on, but that's what this is. This is presumably this court has already taken a vote, and the majority won. And this is as you know, one judge writes the majority's opinion, and then there's a minority opinion, and that's what this is. This is what will supposedly be the majority opinion of the Supreme Court on overturning Roe versus Wade.
Supposedly, and it hasn't actually happened yet. It hasn't been released yet, but I do enjoy seeing all of the people coming to terms with the reality that these Supreme Court justices, they're just as petty. They're just as common. They're just as
political.
Yes, as Donald Trump.
Well, but many will blame Trump.
But that's part of the game.
Yes, but they don't believe that.
That's
they
why
never
people love it.
That, though. They always believe that the Supreme Court justices are these great, honorable, wise people who transcend this political pettiness.
Right. They stand apart for partisan politics.
Yes, they're above and beyond that.
In
and
it for the Constitution.
Yes, and now they're faced with the reality that, actually, they are just as petty, just as political.
That's a good point. In fact, if you look at the opinion surveys asking the people of the United States, they ask, well, what do you think about the Congress? And usually the results are really piss poor for Congress.
Unless it's your Congress member, and everyone loves, usually, though, the one that they voted for. It's everyone else's Congress member that
I thought
sucks.
the average approval rating of Congress was like 17% or something.
Right. I'm talking about where they ask generally about Congress. I don't know. I've never seen them where they ask about their specific congressperson, but that wouldn't surprise me. But it's 17, 7%, 10%, somewhere in there. It's usually the worst of all of them. President comes in higher, typically, and the justices of the Supreme Court, the court system, always comes in higher than everything. Military also comes in high because there's all this pomp and circumstance around this.
Wait until they learn that the military is just as political and just as petty as the Supreme Court.
Well, it's hard to get this information to the people because there's so much propaganda surrounding the military. Oh, they protect our freedoms. Even though there's been story after story about the military killing innocent people and, blowing up hospitals.
Not our military. That's you're thinking the Russians, right?
No, it's the U.S., as you know.
Yes.
But all those stories aside, the military continues to keep this special aspect to it that makes it impervious to any significant criticism.
Yeah, somehow despite committing things like Abu Ghraib and stuff like that, the military somehow is still honorable. They're still noble.
Right.
They're still protecting us.
Because usually the blame goes to the politicians, right? Oh, well, the military, they're just following
orders. There you go.
You got to blame Trump. You got to blame Bush. You got to blame Obama and so on and so forth. So,
but you can do that too if you want. But I mean,
sure. But Obama didn't pull the trigger when the bombs were dropped on Doctors Without Borders hospitals in Afghanistan.
Correct.
Well, he didn't do it himself, but he ordered it, didn't he?
Yes, but it was still some military member who pushed the button and actually dropped the bomb and actually murdered the people. Obama may have ordered it, and he almost certainly did. However, someone still pressed the button who was not Obama.
Are we talking about Nobel Peace Prize winner President Obama?
One. Yeah. Yeah.
Murdering American citizens and dropping bombs on hospitals?
So I do like that aspect of this situation with the Supreme Court as well because it is showing the politicization of the Supreme Court. I love the fact that people are freaking out about, the sanctity of the court has been violated. Oh, my God, we must find who did this and how dare. And apparently the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court put out a notice today, a public, statement saying that we're going to get whoever this was. We are ordering the marshal of the court to investigate who leaked this, and they will be punished. The sanctity of the Supreme Court will not be violated, and all this propaganda.
And he may be right based on the precedent they're setting with Julian Assange. This sort of thing where you have this critically important information that you think the world needs to see, and you pass it on to a journalist. That journalist could very well end up on the hook and facing, life sentences or whatever for treason or whatever Assange is being charged with because they dared. Like Politico, whoever released this could be charged.
Which way do they lean, Politico?
I don't know. Probably left, but I don't spend a lot of time reading their stuff.
Of course, that's the other question is which party, which aide do you think released this? Because I guess it can work in both ways. I mean, the left are in an uproar at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Conan, the Supreme Court doesn't have political parties.
But I mean, the conservatives, the conservatives are just as happy about this as the left are mad.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could see it being handed down by any of the two parties, Arya, because that's.
There are no parties, Conan.
I don't care. They vote one way and never vote the other way. Split 5-4 right now.
I don't know.
Yes.
They always vote the same 5-4, 5-4, 5-4.
It seems to me that if I had to guess, I would say it would be somebody on the left because they wanted to give them a heads up. They wanted to stir up the controversy and get the protesters.
And by the way, those protesters had them signs done quick. It's like, I don't know. It's almost like they knew it was coming.
It doesn't take much to make a sign, though.
But they were ready to go.
I mean, I got blank signs here. Get a marker.
It's a trip to Walmart to buy some.
I guess it'd be curious to look at the back of their signs and see if it's got yellow, blue Ukraine stuff on the side. They just pulled it out of the trunk. It was already there, and they scribbled something new on there. And we stand with the woman's right to choose. The same people who were telling me that I needed to forcefully take a shot.
Oh, I know,
by the way, or lose my job or not be able to buy groceries. I don't know. 3 months ago.
Your bodily autonomy did not matter when it came to them wanting to feel good and wanting to feel safe. But when it comes to this issue, suddenly bodily autonomy is
That's
important
another
again.
great point, and that is that the chant is back amongst the left about my body, my choice.
Oh, no. You people on the left, you don't get to say that anymore.
They are.
But they don't get to.
It
wasn't my body, my choice 2 years ago when people were calling us manslaughterers for not wearing masks.
New script, new code. Right. The NPCs have a new chip. And they're just following protocol.
Yep.
They don't remember what they did 3 months ago.
I know they don't, but that's why we're here to remind them.
But they still won't see it as hypocritical.
How could they not?
They're just not. They must have some sort of disconnect. I can't understand how.
You can't tell me I have to.
They are either actual NPCs in this simulation, or they are hypnotized.
No, they can't be NPCs. There is not a programmer in the world who is so bad they would create an NPC who's so obviously incapable of thought.
Unless this reality show that we're trapped in is all intentional.
No,
and the aliens are up there laughing their asses off right now. Look at these jokers. Yeah. What can we do next?
Yeah, great question. We're going to continue. Your calls are welcome. You can join us at 603-283-6160. Is secession going to benefit from this controversy? I sure hope so. That's another aspect to it we can talk about. Of course, your calls and thoughts are welcome at 603-283-6160. You can join us here on Free Talk Live.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Porkfest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us here. We're actually going to go to your calls here in moments. I do want to say thank you to Bitcoin.com. They are a longtime sponsor here on Free Talk Live. If you're ready to start learning about cryptocurrency, get on over to Bitcoin.com and you can click Get Started at the top of the page. That's where you'll find some useful introductory videos that will help you understand the basics.
Don't listen to Warren Buffett. Anything he says about Bitcoin,
saying that he wouldn't pay
$25 for all the Bitcoin in the world.
Dude, I would in a heartbeat.
Well, the problem would be having it all in your possession.
You can't get all of the Bitcoin.
Correct. The fact that he doesn't even know that.
Right. He's just so clueless.
Him and his buddy, what was his buddy's name?
Peter.
Charlie Munger. They're both talking on this panel, and Warren is talking, I wouldn't pay $25 for all this. And Munger's like, I hate Bitcoin because it undermines the USD. And it undermines the Fed. Literally, he said that. That's why he doesn't like Bitcoin.
That's the whole point of Bitcoin.
That's exactly. So not only can you not own it all, and it's not even mineable till what, 2140?
It's basic. I don't know if it's economics or just supply and demand. Yeah, it must be economics. Like if there's a limited supply of a thing and you start buying it up, the price goes up, right? So like you can't get, like even if all of the Bitcoin were willing to be sold, the price would just continue to shoot up, and that presumes that
Well,
again,
not if you lock in the price, right? Like Elon Musk did with buying Twitter. He had to buy 100% of the shares or whatever.
Yeah, but that's just buying from one company. If you're trying to buy Bitcoin,
if I had 3 shares of Twitter, in theory, Musk would still have to buy my shares of Twitter, right?
No, I think Twitter can sell your shares out from under you. I'm not sure how all that works exactly. That's a centralized corporation. So the rules are completely different there. Bitcoin is in the hands of I don't know how many millions of people all around the world, and even if all of them were willing to sell, which of course is completely impossible that would be the case, because as the price started going up, a lot of people are going to say, I'm holding on to this. You kidding me?
Yeah, because the supply would have decreased substantially by that point, making one
these
Bitcoin worth
two,
a whole lot of money.
These two,
that old man's a fool.
Knuckleheads. They just don't like competition. Let's just face it.
We're going to go to your phone calls, but again, check out Bitcoin.com if you want to learn the basics about Bitcoin, and they've also got the latest news over at news.bitcoin.com. Let's talk to Maverick calling from Kentucky. Maverick, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Agree with a fetus being a trespasser.
Maverick, start over again. We were muted for a second.
Sorry
start
about
over.
that.
I just want to disagree about a fetus being a trespasser in the event of a woman consensually engaging in intercourse, because by consensually engaging, she is inherently accepting the risk of pregnancy.
I like that point. What if she?
I don't
What if
agree
it
with
was
that
not?
at all. I
What
don't
if it was
even know
not
how many
consensual?
times I've had sex, but the number of women I've gotten pregnant is 0.
Because you were being responsible. If I'm correct.
But that doesn't mean that by having sex, the woman agreed to accept the responsibility of that she could get
Absolutely,
pregnant.
it does. You know that is what comes along with having sex. You know there's a
In
good
my
chance
experience,
of it.
99.9999% of the time, it does not come as a result.
Good for you, but for a lot of people, it does. Many pregnancies happen as a complete accident to the people that are involved in it.
But what is the ratio of that versus the number of times I've had sex and not gotten pregnant? I'm willing to bet the actual likelihood of a pregnancy as a result of having sex is like 0.0001%.
You know it's a risk, just like you know getting an STD is a risk from having sex. And if you get an STD from having sex, you shouldn't get too mad about that either. You knew what the chances were.
Sure, but I mean, you also have probably about the same relative chance of getting struck as you're crossing the street by a vehicle while you're a pedestrian.
And you know if you walk across the street, you're taking a chance of getting hit. That's just what you get into when you take risks.
But that doesn't mean the other driver isn't at fault because you willingly took that risk or whatever. And it doesn't mean you had any reason like, oh, I shouldn't have crossed the street. I knew I was going to get hit by a car. I mean, there's a such thing as a reasonable expectation of results, and
there's a reasonable expectation that if you let somebody have sex with you unprotected, that you are going to get pregnant.
Yep,
that's a reasonable expectation.
Except
the more you do it, the higher your chances of that happening. Unless you have sex with Arya, and she's very, very good about protection, apparently. So good for you. I'm glad that that's worked out for you.
It's not that hard to not get someone pregnant.
I agree. I got a vasectomy. I have no problem. I don't get people pregnant.
And Conan, I imagine you've had sex more than the one time in your life that you had a daughter, right?
This is true.
So how many?
But I'm also extremely careful.
Okay.
Was she an accident?
Oh, yeah.
But condoms
most of us are, by the way.
That's true.
But careful or not, condoms are not foolproof. They only have a reported 99% likelihood of preventing pregnancy or whatever. So you're still taking that 1% chance. Have you had sex more than 100 times?
99% is better than 0.
Mm-hmm. Maverick, what do you think? What if it's not consensual? What if it's rape? What if it's incest or something like that? Then what's your opinion on the responsibility of the woman?
In cases of rape or incest, then yes, the fetus is a trespasser, and I think abortion would be allowed.
Yeah. Here's my one problem with the whole pro-life.
Do you have a womb there, dude?
What's the relevance of that question?
The answer about whether or not someone can have an abortion doesn't affect him. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect any of us.
Unless we're responsible men who take care of.
If I go on a one-night stand and she happens to get pregnant, it does affect me because of child support.
Yeah. And if you're responsible, you wouldn't need the law to come down on you to make you take care of that child.
Exactly. No glove, no love.
Okay, so if we got rid of the state and its child support laws, would you be okay with getting rid of the state and its abortion laws?
I'd be okay with that. I'm okay with getting rid of
Good question.
Yeah. I think that's a fair compromise. Okay, we get rid of this child support apparatus, this family court apparatus that unnecessarily punishes men as it does, and at the same time, we legalize abortion.
Maverick, anything else you want to share tonight?
No, that's about it.
Thanks for the call tonight.
Here's this is my biggest problem with pro-life, the pro-life concept. If in fact the child that you are making this woman have is not going to be introduced to a loving family. The mother doesn't want the kid.
She's a crackhead.
She's a crackhead. The probability that the kid is going to be put into a bad situation for the rest of its life is very probable.
Yep.
That's my problem.
What kind of a life is that?
I think that making that child live, and maybe the child is horribly deformed, no arms, no legs, just craziness. I believe, in my personal opinion, that it is immoral and inhuman to make that child suffer. And in that case, I'm all about putting it out of its misery.
What if she wasn't on crack, though? I mean, what if she just didn't want the kid? So she was going to turn it over to the state or some foster agency.
It's the same concept. You are introducing a child to a world of hurt. A mother that will probably never love that kid ever.
I agree. I just wanted to remove the whole crack thing from the situation.
No, that's a great point. And I think Mark, our co-host Mark Edge, used to make a very similar point about that. It's like, hey, you conservative types, why do you want to force liberals to have kids? Why do you want to force, especially liberals who don't want to have kids, to have kids? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and are you going to step up and are you going to adopt these kids?
The conservatives?
Yeah.
Oh, of course not.
Of course, their argument would be, well, the reason that these people are having so much unprotected sex, whimsical, just sleeping with everyone under the sun, is because they have abortion as an option if they mess up.
There are plenty of children out there,
if you take that away from them, then they'll
get
might,
more responsible.
Maybe.
Wow, I've never heard that one. That's an interesting argument, but complete bunk because people are driven to sex, right? Like it is something that is that's called a sex drive for a reason. Right.
I mean, there are tens of thousands of children out there not being adopted. If these conservatives, if these pro-life people really want me to take them seriously, at least one of them will have adopted at least one child at some point in their lives.
When I know that there are consequences, whether it's driving too fast or it's doing certain drugs or any kind of vice, I kind of want to know, and I kind of want to take responsibility for taking care of myself. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm doing 120 and I go off into a ditch. So I don't do 120.
But you already know there are consequences for getting somebody pregnant.
Yes.
So that affects you already.
There's a consequence of getting someone pregnant, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's a consequence of having sex with them.
But if you have abortion as an option, and or you have the state to take care of your baby mama, and you go run off, do whatever you want, there are no consequences. If in fact you had to take care of that kid, this is why the divorce rate in this country is up so high, because most women don't need that man to take care of them because they got big daddy government. They got another check coming from another location.
They probably make more money with the government as well.
Yes, probably, and it's probably easier. You don't have to deal with this dumb man that knocked you up 20 years ago.
The number here is 603-283-6160. Given how many kids are complete accidents, I just don't think that people are going to become more responsible overnight if abortion is off the table. People are just irresponsible. More coming up. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court has ordered an immediate investigation into the leak of a draft opinion that suggests a majority of justices are preparing to overturn the landmark Roe v. Wade decision that has kept abortion legal in America since 1973. John Roberts says the leak was an egregious betrayal and an effort to undermine the court's integrity. He's confirmed the authenticity of the February document, but insists it is not the final ruling. Abortion rights activists fear it presages the rollback of the Roe decision. And President Biden today called the draft a fundamental shift in American jurisprudence.
It concerns me a great deal that we're going to, after 50 years, decide a woman does not have a right to choose. The idea that we're going to make a judgment that is going to say that no one can make the judgment to choose to abort a child based on a decision by the Supreme Court, I think goes way overboard.
On Capitol Hill, fury, Republicans accuse the Democrats of orchestrating the leak in a bid to galvanize their supporters ahead of November's midterm elections. But Democrat Charles Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, accuses some of the justices of lying during their confirmation hearings.
Several of these conservative justices, who are in no way accountable to the American people, have lied to the U.S. Senate, ripped up the Constitution, and defiled both precedent and the Supreme Court's reputation, all at the expense of tens of millions of women who could soon be stripped of their bodily autonomy.
If the final decision echoes the draft, it will leave it up to America's 50 states to determine their own abortion laws. In other news, the UN says the first 100 evacuees from the besieged Ukrainian steel plant in Mariupol have now made it to safety. FSN's Will Denzelo is on assignment in Riga in Latvia, outside the reach of the Kremlin's reporting restrictions.
They managed to get that 101 people out of the Azovstal steel plant that, of course, has been under incredibly severe bombardment for a number of days, as Russian shelling even continued after those 100 or so people managed to escape. Of course, this all comes after a few weeks ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he wanted such a strong besiegement of the Mariupol area that not even a fly could get in. So there are certainly massive concerns on reports that Russian forces are now moving into that area.
And the US government says women's basketball star Brittany Griner is being wrongfully detained by Russia. It's the first time the US has used that phrase. She was arrested in Moscow in February on drugs charges. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. We're going to take a look in detail over the next couple of days at Australia's election campaign. It is underway ahead of Election Day on May the 21st, and polls suggest Prime Minister Scott Morrison faces an uphill battle to win another term in office, with voters souring on his Liberal National Party coalition and taking a fresh look at a reborn Labour Party in Australia. Benedict Brooke is a senior reporter for the website news.com.au.
Scott Morrison has actually managed to stay in power and not being stabbed in the back by his own party, so that's one win he can he can rack up. But I think they're under a lot of pressure. The Liberal Party, the coalition, they're getting a lot of pressure in inner city electorates, blue ribbon, quite rich, posh parts of Sydney and Melbourne, where there are independent candidates who are kind of quite progressive on things like climate change. It's a big possibility that the equivalent of the Chancellor of the Exchequer in Australia, Josh Frydenberg, could lose his seat. He is being touted as a possible Prime Minister down the road. So the coalition are kind of suffering from a bit of people are a bit fatigued by them, by the current government, and also they're getting some of their traditional votes kind of peeled off as well.
Tomorrow, the party that's doing the peeling will look at the Australian Labor Party's new manifesto. The main news again, the Chief Justice of the US Supreme Court has ordered a probe into the leak of a draft opinion showing the court is preparing to overturn the landmark Roe v. Wade decision on abortion. Calls are growing in Britain for the government to impose a windfall tax on energy companies as families struggle with the cost of living crisis. And the US government now says women's basketball star Brittany Griner is being wrongfully detained by Russia. There's more from us online at featurestory.com. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
This is the Onion Week in Review. Quiet and reserved temp Kevin Bright surprised his coworkers this week when they discovered that the mild-mannered 27-year-old was actually an untalented singer-songwriter.
How did I get here? It's probably a tree.
Bright, who mostly keeps to himself at work, usually spends his free time embarrassing himself at open mics across the city, and that underneath his meek and soft-spoken exterior is a terrible guitarist with no musical sensibility whatsoever.
You see him in the office, he's this quiet, reserved kid, and you would never think, oh, he's got a great voice and a wonderful stage presence, and you'd be totally right.
In other news, an Ohio Film Festival graphic designer decides to go with film reels for the O's. And getting grandma into a family reunion t-shirt is a 3-person job. The entire 144-minute cut of this week's review is available now for just $11.99 on Laserdisc. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. You can bring up what you want. Just dial in here and take control of the airwaves at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Tonight, you've got Ian.
Aria.
And Conan.
And this is my fault. I distracted him with a box of something that I wanted him to evaluate for me.
Yeah, it's growing season. It's time to start putting the plants in the ground.
What was your fault?
That he was distracted and didn't have his mic anywhere in front of him.
I didn't even know.
Okay.
I was looking at something else. There didn't even seem to be a pause. So
okay, awesome.
I have been successful. I've been trying to get my neighbors to start planting, growing stuff, and they just walk by. Hey, what's going on, dude? Garden's looking great. I'm like, you started yours yet? Nah,
too busy.
Well, it does take a lot of work, man.
It does.
I mean, once you have a garden going, as I understand it, I mean, especially here in New Hampshire or in the swamp of Keene, it tends to perpetuate itself pretty well.
You got to weed that thing.
Sure.
You just got to keep the roots out. Some of my biggest problems is the tree roots from some competing trees that just, hey, what's this over here? This is beautiful. I love this. It's a nice empty plot that I can just stick my roots into
and
then gobble up all the good nutrients. Yeah. So I'm constantly having to go through there and edge those roots out, which isn't a problem. But yeah,
there was a whole bush I had to dig up, and I did not enjoy that at all. I mean, it wasn't really a bush. It was just the roots of a bush because the bush had, been chopped down long ago, but the roots remained. Man, that took an afternoon, and it was tedious and exhausting.
Hello, 10 years of my property. I only have 1/3 of an acre, and I'm still digging things up. Roots, big old
car
boulders,
batteries you mentioned,
and pieces and pieces of car.
I have yet to dig up any pieces of car.
Yeah, the people who lived before me in this house, they were of the ilk that just throwing things over the fence was just all right, including old pieces of car, batteries, lots and lots of oil filters, and oil. By the way, they were just pouring the oil right into the ground.
Well, that's what you do with oil.
That's what they. I know
that's a joke. Everyone, don't call in upset. I know.
Throw your oil. Just pour your oil down the storm drain and throw your car batteries into the ocean.
Yes,
that's bad advice.
You don't pour the oil out into the yard. You pour it down the kitchen sink.
Anyways, good news. I've got both Arya and Bonnie.
Kids, don't try this at home.
Growing. They've got a small, I think, 200 square foot little plot.
Yes, it's about that. Yeah.
I'm very happy. It makes me feel good. I just need to get the rest of the world on board.
You were the inspiration for it. There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
All right, let's get back to your calls and thoughts here. Sam is on the line in Ohio. For those just tuning in, we've been talking about the leaked draft copy of what is purportedly going to be a majority opinion of the Supreme Court of the United States to overturn Roe versus Wade. And I generally think this is a good thing. I understand there's a lot of people freaking out about this. And I'm saying this is a good thing as someone who supports your right to do to yourself whatever it is you want to do. I think if you want to have an abortion, you should be able to have one, and there shouldn't be anybody out there that could tell you that you legally can't do that. There should be no punishment beyond the frustration and the potential damage to yourself of having the abortion, because it's not, from the people who I've known who have made that decision, it was a very large decision. It was very hard for them to make, and it's not any, for a lot of people, it's not some sort of throwaway
Speaking
choice.
of, the very woman, McCorvey, Roe, rescinded her original ideas on abortion later in life and actually tried to have the law repealed. And they threw it out. So I guess she was in her 50s, 60s, and she's like, she reconsidered and turned it all around and decided that she didn't like the idea at all. Isn't that interesting?
Well, yeah, if you don't like the idea, it's your body, you can choose not to have one.
But she sued the government.
Yeah.
When she was younger,
and she failed.
And I don't know that she failed. That Roe versus Wade.
Oh, I thought you were saying she was trying to overturn Roe versus Wade.
Later on, yes,
she failed at that.
Yes, she failed at the second attempt.
Yeah, but now it's presumably been overturned. What were you trying to say, Arya?
I assume you're in favor of this leaked decision, essentially because it will heighten the divisiveness in the United States and just make it clearer to people that the left and the right, they just cannot agree, and it doesn't make sense to continue trying to unite people under a single government.
Well, that's one reason, but secondly, from the federalism perspective of states should have the abilities to self-govern. I mean, I'm no fan of states. I think states and all governments shouldn't exist, but I'd rather see 50 different experiments in statism than one big one. So let Mississippi outlaw it, let Alabama outlaw it. And by the way, supposedly when this decision goes into effect, and we don't know when the actual decision is going to be published.
Probably 2 months.
It's just a leak. We have no idea. But when it actually does go into effect, there are apparently already a bunch of states where abortion is technically illegal.
Yep.
So all those old laws are still on the books. When Roe versus Wade went into effect, it simply negated the enforcement of these old laws written in whenever the hell it was in the 19th or 20th century. And those things are just going to go right back into effect. Abortion is going to become a criminal act in, I don't know how many dozens, a couple dozen states or something like that. I saw one of those maps, one of those infographics earlier today, and it's a lot of them.
Do you know where we stand here in New Hampshire?
New Hampshire has no prohibition. It also has no protection.
Right.
So we're sort of just no man's land, basically, as I understand.
Which is sort of the way it should be. Right.
The government should stay out of it.
Yeah.
Let's go to Sam in Ohio. Of course, now that this is happening, you're going to see some states are going to try to do more or less or whatever. But Sam, go ahead.
So I almost wanted to comment on the fact that you talking about the criminalization of it. It seems like as a libertarian, you'd be against them criminalizing it because then they'd be able to send women to prison.
Well, of course I'm against the criminalizing of it, but I don't live in those states. And if that's what people want to see happen, then okay, they can do what they want.
Like the war on drugs, I don't want to legalize or decriminalize drugs. I just want it off the books. I want the government to stop having anything to do with it. And I'm thinking we all agree that abortion should be the same way.
Yeah, I don't believe that I should be using a central mega government to enforce my beliefs down on other people. If there's a group of people in Mississippi and there's enough of them that say we want to kill women that have abortions, I'm going to be vocally in opposition to that, but I sure as hell am not moving down there to fight that fight.
Oh, and so you're saying that then that individual that wants abortion in, let's say, Mississippi or Ohio, then they just need to get out of that place.
Absolutely.
That's why all three of us are in New Hampshire.
I didn't move here because of abortion.
No, but we moved here because we wanted to move to an area that more closely aligned with the world that we wish to live in.
Yeah,
Right.
voting with our feet.
Yeah. So this will encourage that for sure. If this goes as we're expecting it to.
Specifically in Ohio, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Specifically in Ohio, we're one of the heartbeat bill states. So literally, like, if you're 1 day late of 8 weeks, then it's a crime.
Okay.
Yeah, and as Nikki pointed out several weeks ago on the show, most women don't even know they're pregnant that early in the process. That's the reason those laws are BS.
Is the morning after pill available in your pharmacies there?
As far as I know, you mean like preventing?
Like prevention afterwards. I think you have a good week or two that you can take this pill and it will terminate.
I have no clue about that.
Yeah, asking a young man that question's probably not going to get you good answer.
You could get them in Mississippi over the counter from pharmacies, so you can.
Yeah, but he says they have a heartbeat bill. So I mean, that's like the what?
They don't get more.
night.
They don't get more religiously conservative than Mississippi. So if Mississippi has the morning after pill available over the counter, I'm willing to bet it's available in all 50 states over the counter.
Right. So, but how is that legal though? If they have the stupid heartbeat bill?
Because you only have like a week after in which to take the pill for
I thought
it
the
to
heartbeat
be effective.
started. Oh wait, I'm sorry. So the heartbeat doesn't start.
No, the heartbeat is like 8 weeks or something. Someone else may know. I don't know, but it's not one of the first things that develops.
Right. I was completely thinking of something different.
So in theory, they have time, but in practice, they don't, because most women. I mean, it's not. We don't have periods, so we don't know, but a period isn't something that you can mark on the counter and go, oh my God, it's 2 days late or whatever. Most women, as I understand it.
All women keep a calendar. They know.
But they're not that regular.
Yes, because they're all on the damn pill. They've messed up their menstruation
The
because
pill
of all
helps
this.
make them regular.
No, it doesn't. It messes everything
I'm going off
up.
what Nikki has said. Nikki, the girl who gets periods.
All right, there's a bunch of guys talking about taking the pill here. If there's any ladies that want to comment, feel free to join us at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can join us. Share your thoughts here on Free Talk Live. Bonnie's sitting in the studio. Maybe we can get her to weigh in on this. Special guest.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love,
and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way,
love as your guide,
and liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones are open. You can join us here at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Aria,
and Cody.
Join us online anytime at freetalklive.com. I want to say thanks to Nicole Edge, who is a Free Talk Live supporter of our AMPS program, amps.freetalklive.com. Thank you, Nicole, for helping us out over there. She's gold level, which means she's doing at least $10 a month. We ask for 5. She's doing 10, so thank you for the extra. Definitely appreciate it. It helps us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live to help us get the ideas of freedom on more great radio stations around the country. And again, Nicole's helping make that happen. You can join her over at amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. You get some cool benefits for doing that, and we certainly appreciate it. Let's go back to your phone calls. We're talking about the potential, seems likely now, that the Supreme Court is going to be overturning Roe versus Wade. The only question, it seems like at this point, is when the official documents, the official decision is going to be reached, because the thing that came out in the last 24 hours is a draft copy of what will purportedly be the majority opinion in a decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, which would, as I understand it, once again put the question of whether or not abortion should be prohibited or regulated in any way to the states. Although I guess there are already regulations on it in some of the states. So
yeah, but the reason that the Republican states did that, like Mississippi and Texas and all these others that did recently put out their new regulations, the heartbeat bills and stuff like that, is because they wanted to take this to the Supreme Court now that we had a majority of conservative justices appointed by Trump.
Let's go to Dan. He's in Nebraska. You're on Free Talk Live, Dan.
Hey, Free Talk Live. You know, I sympathize with your I would say, inclination towards letting all the states be experiments in their own right. And I think that in as many cases as we can do that responsibly, you know, we should.
I hear a butt coming. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's, you know, as somebody who lives in Nebraska, when it comes to things like rights, you know, something I think about is that there are people who are going to be still stuck in these backward states. And just because we're marooned here doesn't mean we should just let, you know, our state governments take away what, you know, should be made it right at the federal level.
Well, we are also pro-immigration people here. So in addition to allowing these 50 states to have their 50 individual republics that all disagree about what's going on and how they should be doing things, we believe that if a person wants to leave one state to go to another, they should have the unfettered right to do that.
Yeah, if you're in Nebraska, why don't you just pick up and move to Montana, New Mexico, or Illinois, according to the map at Planned Parenthood Action.org. Those are the 3 nearest states to Nebraska where there are very little, if any, restrictions on having an abortion.
I mean, I think asking somebody to leave over one single issue is kind of a lot. And,
well, then it's not that important to you.
Even if the thing, I'm sorry, but it's just, if I think this is a right and I think that this is something that everybody should be able to do, then I don't know why I would leave people abandoned from having this right.
Because you can't save the world, man. Stop trying. That's not your fight. Save yourself, not the world.
Well, I mean, look, I get to vote. I get it in a very limited way, make moves for my perspective, right?
Well, then what you can do is you can vote in Nebraska and have a fight with the people in Nebraska over whether or not abortion should be legal. Because your vote isn't going to change much at the national level. It took 50 years to undo Roe versus Wade. The idea that it's just going to be redone in any short amount of time seems pretty unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, look, I think inevitably pro-choice will be the thing that wins out in the end, because I don't believe that people are going to continue to be pro-life as I think it's
I don't know. The numbers here suggest you might be wrong. I mean, now again, we are dealing with probably some pretty old laws in most of these states, but I'm looking at this map here, and the entire Southeast is dark red. So Planned Parenthood has a colored map, and it goes from lightish pink to basically black. And there's no black states, but there is a lot of dark red states where essentially abortion is severely restricted.
Are you talking? Okay, but I'm talking about. I mean, I think one of the problems I'm actually having is that the decision all these states are making is so undemocratic that when you have such an amount of people, like over a solid 60% of the country, who agree with abortion.
Where'd you get that number?
I don't believe that number for a second.
Even if you do have that number, what does it matter if the entire population of California and New York and Washington and Maine and all of these other states agree on abortion, and they do comprise 60% of the population? That doesn't give them the right to tyrannize the 40% in Mississippi and Tennessee and Alabama who don't.
Well, no, but I think what we're fundamentally disagreeing on is that you don't think it should be a right. Like, you think that it should be something that's maybe statutory or something.
No, what we're disagreeing on here is that I don't think 60% of people have the right to tell the 40% what they can and can't do. That's where we're disagreeing. You think majority gets to rule, and whatever the majority says is the law.
I think that the undemocratic nature of it is an argument that contributes to my main one, but my main one is just that I believe that, rooted in the right to privacy, guaranteed by the Constitution, it should be viewed as a right.
Okay, well, according to Gallup, who's been asking this question in polls since 1975, the question, do you think abortion should be legal under any circumstances, legal only under certain circumstances, or illegal in all circumstances? Now, obviously, there's a lot of nuance to the answers of this question, right? So somebody saying it should be legal only under certain circumstances, there's a bunch of different circumstances that could come into play into that answer. But regardless, those are the answers that they gave here. And in 1975, so, 50-ish, nearly 50 years ago, 54% of people said abortion should be legal only under certain circumstances. So not the 60% that you claimed. And again, that's not unfettered. That's with restrictions.
Yeah, that's 50 years ago.
Hold on. And then, let's see, 22% said that it should be legal under any circumstance. So that would be the people who are unfettered, whatever you want, go out and get an abortion anytime, anywhere. And then 21% said it should be illegal in all circumstances. So not a single one of those numbers reached 60%. Today, as of 2021, the survey was 48% said it should be legal only under certain circumstances. 32% said legal under any circumstances. and then 19% said illegal in all circumstances. There's been very little movement on this over time. It's gone up to 30. The number of people who said it should be legal under any circumstance has traveled from 22 to 34% back in 1993, back on down to 21% in 2009, back up to 32% last year. So it's up and down within that range who want complete no restrictions. The number of people who want to have it to be illegal in all circumstances has hovered between 21% and 19% in the last 15 or 50 years.
Staying about the same.
Yeah. So this isn't some sort of big sea change. There's more coming up. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court has ordered an immediate investigation into the leak of a draft opinion that suggests a majority of justices are preparing to overturn the landmark Roe v. Wade decision that has kept abortion legal in America since 1973. John Roberts says the leak was an egregious betrayal and an effort to undermine the court's integrity. He's confirmed the authenticity of the February document, but insists it is not the final ruling. Abortion rights activists fear it presages the rollback of the Roe decision. And President Biden today called the draft a fundamental shift in American jurisprudence.
It concerns me a great deal that we're going to, after 50 years, decide a woman does not have a right to choose. The idea that we're going to make a judgment that is going to say that no one can make the judgment to choose to abort a child based on a decision by the Supreme Court, I think goes way overboard.
On Capitol Hill, fury, Republicans accuse the Democrats of orchestrating the leak in a bid to galvanize their supporters ahead of November's midterm elections. But Democrat Charles Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, accuses some of the justices of lying during their confirmation hearings.
Several of these conservative justices, who are in no way accountable to the American people, have lied to the U.S. Senate, ripped up the Constitution, and defiled both precedent and the Supreme Court's reputation, all at the expense of tens of millions of women who could soon be stripped of their bodily autonomy.
If the final decision echoes the draft, it will leave it up to America's 50 states to determine their own abortion laws. In other news, the UN says the first 100 evacuees from the besieged Ukrainian steel plant in Mariupol have now made it to safety. FSN's Will Denzelo is on assignment in Riga in Latvia, outside the reach of the Kremlin's reporting restrictions.
They managed to get that 101 people out of the Azovstal steel plant that, of course, has been under incredibly severe bombardment for a number of days, as Russian shelling even continued after those 100 or so people managed to escape. Of course, this all comes after a few weeks ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he wanted such a strong besiegement of the Mariupol area that not even a fly could get in. So there are certainly massive concerns on reports that Russian forces are now moving into that area.
And the US government says women's basketball star Brittany Griner is being wrongfully detained by Russia. It's the first time the US has used that phrase. She was arrested in Moscow in February on drugs charges. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. Phones are open here. You can join us. Bring up whatever you want, though. Obviously, we're talking about the abortion situation with Roe versus Wade, perhaps just days or months away from being overturned if this draft opinion that was leaked out to the media, to Politico.com, is to be believed. And given that it's 90-something pages, it doesn't seem like something that could be faked very easily. The Supreme Court's head justice, when he issued a notice today about this, said that they're going to crack down and they're going to find out who did this and blah, blah, blah. He didn't deny it. So, I mean, this is probably a thing that's going to happen. The protesters are already hitting the streets. They're already in front of the Supreme Court. They were already here in Keene, New Hampshire, at Central Square earlier today, apparently. And again, I think that this is ultimately good news, and I say that as somebody who believes in the right to choose for yourself whatever medical procedures you think are valid for you.
Certainly.
But Dan is on the line in Nebraska, and he disagrees. He is a utilitarian. That is a word that he has used to describe himself. He believes he's in the majority as well. He said it's 60% of Americans who want to see abortion be legal. But the numbers, according to Gallup, don't bear that out. But even if they did, Dan, I still don't believe that it's...
What's the added total of the two support categories?
Yeah, if you add the 30 to the 43 or whatever, you do have like 70% of people who are okay with some sort of
I don't understand
abortion.
why we're back to talking about America, though. What does it matter what America wants? If California wants to legalize it or make it illegal, what do the people of California want? If Nebraska wants to make it illegal, what do the people of Nebraska want? It doesn't matter to them what America wants.
Well, here's the other thing. There's another question in this survey, Dan, done by Gallup and been done. This question has been on the survey since 1995, so almost 30 years of results for this question. And this question is, with respect to the abortion issue, would you consider yourself to be pro-choice or pro-life? And with the exception of the first year this was asked, where the split was 56% pro-choice, 33% pro-life, immediately after that, it went down to pretty much a dead heat. 47 to 44, 46 to 46, 51 to 41, 50, 44, on and on till today in 2021. And in the last 5 years, it's been 48 or 49% saying they're pro-choice and 46 or 47 or 48% saying they're pro-life. It is a dead heat between people who describe themselves one way or the other in the United States. So really, and I think Arya's pointing this out correctly, Dan, this should come down to what the people want. And if you truly believe in democracy, Dan, and I suspect that that's something you hold dear, then...
Only if it fits in with what he thinks is best.
Yeah,
no,
indeed.
I do believe in democracy.
Then shouldn't the people of Mississippi be able to make a different democratic choice than the people of California?
So I think in terms of things that I don't consider a right, yes, they should. Right.
So it's up to Dan then what they can do.
I don't believe. Look, no. Hold on. I believe it's a constitutionally guaranteed right, and just as
that's just your belief, bro.
Be able to outlaw freedom of speech. I don't believe that they should be able to.
That is just your belief.
The whole argument, right to privacy. I don't think Roe versus Wade has ever been constitutional because I don't buy that argument.
So your belief in democracy is less than your belief in what you think should and shouldn't be allowed.
Can someone explain to me the privacy thing, Dan? You mentioned privacy earlier.
That we consider enshrined, that we consider entrenched in.
Yeah, I want to get back to that exact subject, but I need you to explain it to me. What is it about abortion that has anything to do with privacy?
Well, it's
medical
as
decision.
Far as I understand it, the groundwork was laid in a case like maybe 10 years before, where they said that if a state makes a law requiring a wife to get her husband's permission to buy birth control, that has overstepped an implied right to privacy that people have from the Constitution. And then basically you're taking that logic and then moving it to abortion, saying, well, if birth control, if it's overstepping to make a husband get her wife's consent to buy birth control, then obviously, outlawing abortion would be violating the same kind of principle.
Dude, there's no way that nonsense you just said is the argument people are making. There's no way. Because we're not talking about a husband saying, no, wife, you need my permission to have this abortion. That's not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about the state saying this thing is illegal.
Yeah, but what was the original?
The right to privacy was guaranteed, and then
The right to
after
privacy
that,
does
it
not
was
have
determined
anything to
that
do with
an
my
abortion falls within the
ability
right
to murder people. I can't shoot Conan in the head off camera and then say, "Oh, no, you can't prosecute me. I have a right to privacy." That's not the way this works.
But this is their argument. This was their original argument.
Well, if you don't give moral consideration to fetuses, then if you don't give moral consideration to fetuses, then it should not. Then I think like making sure that people's right to privacy, it's not the same thing as saying that you could murder somebody and that's privacy. We're talking about on one hand something that of being with moral consideration, who is protected also their right to life, right? And versus something which does not, something that does not have moral consideration, a fetus.
All right, let me see if I'm following this because I'm having a tough time.
I'm not following it.
The argument to privacy is that it's a woman, it's her medical choice. She should be able to make a medical choice without anybody being in her business. Is that the privacy argument?
That is the privacy argument.
Okay, I get that. That makes sense. I don't disagree with that perspective. I think you should be able to make decisions. But again, I'm somebody who believes that it's your body and it's your choice. The
Do
people
you
on the other
oppose
side
assisted suicide, Dan?
I do.
Do I think that I do support doctor-assisted suicide, yes.
Okay.
People should be allowed to make that choice for themselves.
I'm on board with you with that one as well. But there are people out there that believe, I disagree with them, but they believe that a fetus is a life that is equivalent to any other human life. Now, again, I don't agree with that, but they have a fundamentally different belief than perhaps you or I might on this particular issue, Dan. And those people would say, they'd make the ARIA argument that, well, you don't have a right to take somebody else's human life from them and have privacy for that act. And that's where they would be coming from on that. And as far as I'm concerned, if all those people want to move down to Mississippi or any of the other southern states and live together and have their, theocracy or whatever it is they want to have, they should be able to have it, shouldn't they?
I mean, I already gave you my position. If the laws that they want to make don't interfere with what I consider to be a constitutional
it's all up to
right,
Dan.
then they have that.
Dan is the man. He decides.
I'm leaving it up to.
Well, the Supreme Court.
What do you mean?
The Supreme Court has decided, and they are now saying that it's not a right.
Well, Dan disagrees. Dan would like to run for the Supreme Court someday, where he can control everybody and tell them all what to do. Thank you for the call tonight.
And I feel like I should point out that, I use the analogy of shooting Conan in the head. Obviously, first of all, I would never do that. Second of all, I don't think that abortion is murder.
Yeah.
So that was just an example that I was using in an argument with Dan.
The number here is 603-283-6160. Look, I just don't understand the obsession with trying to control people. And that's the difference between people like us and people like Dan. Even though we may have a similar belief, and when I say we, I'm not including you, Conan, Aria, you and I, about abortion and the right to control one's own body and do what you want to it, Dan wants to force his beliefs on everybody else.
I think that's not what he was saying. I think
that's absolutely what he was saying.
Well, I think his argument was
right.
No, his argument was he was concerned with his 60-40 analogy. He was concerned with the 60% of pro-lifers telling him what he can do with his body.
No, he was saying it was 60% pro-choice. He was saying he was in the majority. He was saying that his belief is the correct belief and should be enforced upon everyone.
But he's from Nebraska. I don't see that. I think that that's going to be a pro-life state. I'm not positive
Nebraska
on that.
is a
I think he's concerned with the majority telling him what he can do.
Where he lives, he's legitimately concerned with that. Yeah.
So, but you're making it sound like he is trying to impose his beliefs.
He would. If he could, he would. He said that.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think his core argument was he's concerned with the majority taking his rights from him, and I am sympathetic to that.
He can move.
Well, first of all, he's not a woman, number one, so he's not really affected by this.
He could be a dad.
There's more coming up here.
Someone who doesn't want to be a dad.
The number 603-283-6160. You can join us and share your thoughts. It's Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
If you're David, a few well-chosen words can help level the playing field with Goliath. I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com. Recently, I saw a Yellow Pages ad for an appliance repair company, and the headline read, "Why wait for Sears?" If you're going to the Yellow Pages, the Dead Sea Scrolls of advertising, you're ready to buy right now. So this is an attention-grabbing message. And how about the plumber whose radio ad says, "Call by noon Thursday, and we'll be there Saturday at no extra cost"? Smart guy. Most plumbing firms give their crew the weekend off. This one gives them Sunday and Monday off. In the words of a respected advertising executive, cut to the chase, make it quick, and tell me exactly what you can do for me, especially if you're looking for work. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The phones are open here. You can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Aria.
And Conan.
We're talking about the very likely potential at this point that Roe versus Wade is going to be overturned. I suspect no amount of protesting outside of the Supreme Court is going to all of a sudden, suggest to the court justices, so-called, that they should change their decision last minute. I don't think that's going to happen.
That was what I thought about when I was driving here to the studio tonight to do the show, and I passed that protest happening there at Central Square in Keene. It's like, these people are taking time out of their day because they care about this issue. Mm-hmm. Do they know it's not going to have any effect whatsoever on anything?
Yeah, but they might convince our mayor to draft up a memo to send to the governor claiming that we are a pro-choice city. This is what they do, by the way. The grandstanding is, immeasurable.
Oh yeah, they're turning this into a political football. There's no doubt, and that is one aspect of this. This is going to become a huge issue. Like, people were saying that the Republicans are going to sweep the elections this year.
Oh, they are,
and that is not a sure thing anymore after this.
That's
not a sure thing, because there were some people maybe toward the center or whatever that were going to independents that were leaning Republican because they were tired of all the masks and all the Democrat insanity when it came to COVID. But now this is going to drag a bunch of those people right back over to the left. So I don't know if it's a done deal.
You mentioned earlier that these people don't have long attention spans. That's painfully true here. They're not going to remember COVID-19 and the masks and the social distancing and the shutdowns. They're going to remember, the conservatives just did this thing I don't like. I'm voting for the Democrats.
But they're not going to remember what it was. But there'll be something. This is way too early. This is way too early. There's going to be something completely different. And I'm thinking it's going to be empty shelves.
This is the election year, though.
Yeah,
but he's saying we got 6 months or whatever.
There's going to be. I mean, look how fast it's going right now. We went COVID, Ukraine, Twitter.
Yeah.
Now we're at Roe. I mean, that's all in the space of like a month.
This is a big one, though, man.
This is big, and it isn't done yet.
Right? No, you wait till people are hungry. That will be the big one.
Oh, that's
because
definitely going to change
because here's the question. Because these are people who have jobs who are protesting.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe some of them might be retired.
A lot of people have quit their jobs.
When do the riots start?
Well, that's a good
Is that
question.
after the ruling comes down, or do the riots start beforehand?
I don't know.
Because that's just because it's not winter anymore. There's no more snow on the ground.
Yeah,
now
people are gonna go out.
It's riot season.
Yeah,
and this is perfect.
This is the new George Floyd.
So is that going to, I don't know, lead to something bigger? Because now you have something that the conservatives have wanted for forever, and they've got it. They've got Twitter, and they were happy about that. You saw them for the whole week, praising Lord God Musk, and now they finally got something they've been fighting for forever. Will they let this go away? Will this turn? Will these protests turn a Supreme to change his mind? And will that cause the conservatives to come out in droves and fight for this?
If the decision's been made, now again, none of us are legal experts, okay? But when a court makes a ruling, I don't think one of them can later on change their mind and invalidate that ruling. They would have to have another case come before them and another decision be made.
And that's why I said I thought this was just a draft.
It's a draft of the majority opinion. They already voted.
I didn't know that they had already voted. I thought this is just
We don't have the vote, but that's presumably what having a majority opinion written up is all about.
Well, whenever they vote on it.
I suspect they have, and they just haven't published the opinions yet.
That's what I believe to be the case.
Yeah, but we don't know. We won't know for sure until that finally becomes a done deal. But as of right now, this is totally a political football. The people on the left, the people on the right, the politicians they're grabbing this thing and they're running.
You better believe it
as far as they can.
Well, abortion has been a political football for my entire life,
but it's not always front and center. Not like this.
It's never been in our lifetimes. It's never been illegal to do this, to have a fetus.
Some states have more restrictions than others, even though it's quote-unquote legal. But once Roe versus Wade goes away, according to the map over at the Planned Parenthood site, they are expecting what looks like at least half of the states. I'm just eyeballing this here. Maybe more than half of the states.
It's everyone that isn't West or East Coast, basically, right?
New England and New York and New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland will have very little restrictions. West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada. The exceptions are Montana, New Mexico, and Illinois. Those are sort of the middle states that are also very low restriction. Everything else is highly restricted.
Okay, so,
mostly or highly.
I mean, why are liberals still hanging around in Oklahoma and Mississippi anyway?
I don't know. And
you idiots, go to California, be with the rest of your kind, and leave the poor conservative Christians in Mississippi and Louisiana alone.
This is the thing that is so frustrating to me, because when I remember when Trump took office, I went out to Central Square. I'm like, all right, maybe finally the Democrats are ready to talk about secession. And so I went out with some of the independence flyers, the New Hampshire Foundation for New Hampshire Independence flyers, and they were, of course, protesting Trump. So they were there. And I went out and I said, here, what do you think about independence for New Hampshire? And to be fair, some of the younger ones seemed like they were willing to consider it.
Sure.
But the older ones, their viewpoint was, no, We got to take this thing back. We got to take back the country, and we got to blah, blah, blah. Same old crap, different story. Be the same thing for the Republicans if you ask them about Joe Biden. And they're so interested in control.
It's all about control.
Yeah.
And having their guy in power helping them retain that control. That's what it's all been about.
And they will suffer. Like Dan in Nebraska, he's going to suffer in Nebraska trying to fight a losing battle with a bunch of Republicans, because Nebraska here on this list is not dark red, but it is red. So I
think in the long run, Dan's going to end up living in California or Oregon or Seattle or something like that.
New Mexico's a short drive from Nebraska.
Okay.
And there's no restrictions in New Mexico. But again, Dan's not going to go where the abortion restrictions are unless his girlfriend tells him to.
That's right.
Then he'll go wherever she says.
I think he probably will, though, in the long run. I think
if his girlfriend moves, he'll go with her.
He's liberal enough that he will gravitate towards where liberal bastions are.
And that's what should happen. But the problem is these people dig their heels in and they say, no, we need to fight for abortion rights here in Nebraska. We got to take on these conservatives that are obviously dominating the state house there. And you probably have no chance whatsoever to actually win this. And it's just the same reason why we can't get most libertarians to even consider migrating to New Hampshire. It's like, hey, libertarians are winning here. We've actually got people who are getting elected. We've got dozens of free staters that are in the state house. Look at all these successes. Here, point to this story, that story. We got all these different stories about political wins. We got a tremendous community here. And yet still, libertarians, even as close as New York, will say things like, oh, I was born here in New York, and I'm going to stay and fight. I care about where I was born. And it's just such a
do
dumb,
not.
Yeah, it's such a pointless, fruitless, just wasteful mentality. But
it's super
people have
easy.
it.
Look, I was born and raised in Mississippi.
Yep.
But New Hampshire is now my home.
That's right.
That's it, man. That's all it takes is for you to move to New Hampshire and go, yep, this is it. This is where I'm at now.
Well,
This is my
apparently
home.
people like us are in the very, very small minority.
That's because most of these people never bother to leave their hometowns.
Not too much hate on these people.
I don't hate them. I pity them.
They have families. They have
Get your damn family in the car.
They have
Bring
roots. Maybe
if their family cares about them, they would want them to move somewhere where they could be more
happy?
successful and happier.
Unless, of course, they're only happy where they're nearby their mom.
My family was thrilled to watch me leave. Like, bye, go, yes. And I was thrilled to wave goodbye to them. It was mutually beneficial. If their family genuinely loves them and cares about them, sure, let them do them and let me do me.
Yeah, and that's going to be the excuse a lot of these people, they're going to use to stay right where they are and say, oh, well, you care about abortion or you care about the right to do what you want with your own body, but you won't actually pick up your life and move to somewhere that will actually respect you. I mean, just because your mom's down the street, that's it. Okay, well then, your mom's more important than your belief in rights. Your mom's more important than your belief in your bodily autonomy. And you're just going to fight a losing battle for the rest of your life. Regardless, there are going to be some people who do see this. There are going to be some people who say, all right, I've had it. I'm out of here. I'm moving to California. I'm moving to Nevada or whatever. I want to have
say
communism.
that, but they were supposed to move to Canada when Trump won the election, and they didn't do that.
An awful lot of them.
Well, it's easier to immigrate to California from the United States than it is to Canada. So there is that. So yeah, there's a lot of talk, and this is we're gonna see. Maybe we will see more migration. Maybe we're gonna see more hashtag national divorce trending.
Balkanization.
It should be inevitable at this point. I mean, it should be plain as day to the average person that we're just not going to find any common ground where half the country isn't angry at the other half. So let's stop trying to make this work. It's not going to work. Let's go our separate ways. Liberals can do their thing over there. Conservatives do their thing over there. And we'll do our liberty thing over here.
Right. If you want to have a state where there's no restrictions on abortion, you want it nice and warm, get down to Southern California, get down to New Mexico. You don't have a whole lot of other options. Every other southern state is highly restrictive on this issue. And the odds are you ain't going to change it. There's more coming up here. You can join us, 603-283-6160. Conan's got a fire story to tell us.
Oh, I do.
Coming up. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. U.S. President Joe Biden says a woman's right to have an abortion is fundamental after reports the Supreme Court is preparing to overturn the federal abortion law. The president urged voters to elect more pro-abortion officials in this year's midterm elections. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
The leaked Supreme Court document suggests that the justices will scrap the law that allows abortions nationwide and instead give individual states the ability to choose. Reacting, President Biden in a statement said a woman's right to choose is fundamental, and the almost 50-year Roe v. Wade law provides basic fairness. He also spoke to reporters.
It's a fundamental shift in American jurisprudence.
The president therefore called on Democrat voters to elect pro-choice lawmakers so Democrats can pass legislation protecting abortion rights. More than half of the 50 U.S. states are expected to ban abortions if the Supreme Court overturns the current federal law. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
With more on the political implications of this leak, here's FSN's U.S. correspondent Simon Marks.
Certainly for Democrats, this is an opportunity to galvanize grassroots supporters who have been pretty unimpressed so far by President Joe Biden and who were lukewarm about turning out this November in midterm elections. There's an opportunity for the Democrats to change all that. But this doesn't cut only one way. It also galvanizes grassroots Republicans who for decades have battled to overturn Roe versus Wade, and now, after reading that leaked judgment, get the sense that they are on the brink of achieving what for them would be an historic moment in rolling back protections for abortion. So this is going to be now a central political issue, I think quite possibly for the rest of this political year.
U.S. markets ended the day in the green after an unsettled day of trading. Investors are bracing themselves for an interest rate rise expected to be announced by the Federal Reserve on Wednesday. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
There were slight gains on Wall Street on Wednesday, with the Dow and the Nasdaq both closing the day up 0.2%, while the S&P saw a rise of 0.5%. It comes ahead of a statement from the chair of the Federal Reserve on Wednesday, where the central bank is expected to increase interest rates by 0.5%. Sarah Walton, New York.
In other news, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has praised what he called Ukraine's finest hour in a speech to the country's parliament. He also used the address to set out further military support for Ukraine in its fight against Russia. And the U.S. ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe has warned that Russia is planning to hold independence referendums in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions of eastern Ukraine as early as this month. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. We're going to take a look in detail over the next couple of days at Australia's election campaign. It is underway ahead of Election Day on May the 21st, and polls suggest Prime Minister Scott Morrison faces an uphill battle to win another term in office, with voters souring on his Liberal National Party coalition and taking a fresh look at a reborn Labour Party in Australia. Benedict Brooke is a senior reporter for the website news.com.au.
Scott Morrison has actually managed to stay in power and not being stabbed in the back by his own party, so that's one win he can rack up. But I think they're under a lot of pressure. The Liberal Party, the coalition, they're getting a lot of pressure in inner city electorates, blue ribbon, quite rich, posh parts of Sydney and Melbourne, where there are independent candidates who are kind of quite progressive on things like climate change. It's a big possibility that the equivalent of the Chancellor of the Exchequer in Australia, Josh Frydenberg, could lose his seat. He is being touted as a possible Prime Minister down the road. So the coalition are kind of suffering from a bit of people are a bit fatigued by the current government, and also they're getting some of their traditional votes kind of peeled off as well.
Tomorrow, the party that's doing the peeling will look at the Australian Labour Party's new manifesto. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. U.S. President Joe Biden says a woman's right to have an abortion is fundamental after reports that the Supreme Court is preparing to overturn the federal abortion law. U.S. markets end the day in the green after an unsettled day of trading. And UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson praises what he calls Ukraine's finest hour in a speech to the country's parliament. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
The Department of Health and Human Services has issued a new ban preventing the nation's saunas from any further use of tanning salons. The ruling was made after a study found that saunas are exposed to roughly 5,000 times more UV radiation each year than the average American.
They are at a very high risk of developing melanoma and orangey leathery skin. Saunas, you are tan enough.
The nation's saunas have reacted negatively to the ban.
I don't care what the government says. I just won $15 in scratches, so I'm getting a freaking tan. This sucks.
None of us have time for this shit. We've got Tammys at home to raise.
In an Onion News Network poll of saunas across the country, more than 30% argued that a pale complexion will negatively affect the size of their tips at Ruby Tuesdays. And more than half have said that their boyfriend's dentist liked them tan. And he's the father of their second child, so they want him to stick around.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour of the program. The phones are open. You can join us. Your comments are welcome. We'll still talk to you about the Roe versus Wade potential to be overturned. Looks pretty high at this point, with a draft majority opinion being leaked out to the media. Politico.com getting that story earlier today. But there's other stuff in the news we're talking about, although, Conan, you've got a personal story.
Yeah, it's personal and it's regional, but I think that in the post-COVID era that we've entered into, the new normal, I think that this might be something felt by everyone else in the country, because there have been a lot of departments in this country which have adopted these new policies, and they've not gone away. And
you
some
mean
of
COVID policies?
And some of them are like doing things online. Mm-hmm. Now, some of them are easier, and some of them are more attainable to, easier on the folks, and some of them aren't. Some of them are just dumb. And in my situation, we here in Keene, here in New Hampshire, burn permits are required to burn on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly. Well, I mean, as far as my home insurance is concerned, this is something that is very important to me. I do not want to burn my house down or my neighbor's home down.
Sure.
And then to find out that my insurance company isn't going to cover me because I illegally had a fire going. It should be something. This should be something that is covered by the insurance companies. It should be a private. The fire department. I'm going to say it should be privatized, And it should be a legal agreement between you, the fire department, and your insurance companies. And the fact that the government is involved is part of the problem. But whatever. I do this every year, and I do burn a lot. I cut down a lot of, I'm slowly working on my property, getting rid of all the nasty, they call them swamp maples. They don't have a very long lifespan. They grow all crazy, twisted. They fall over. They have internal rot. So I burn a lot.
Okay.
COVID comes around. No more going into the office, going to the fire department, and talking to a lieutenant and or a soldier, one of the soldiers there, whatever classes they use to identify each other, and getting a piece of paper with burn permit written on it and their signature saying you're good to go. And
Which used to be free, and it used to be for a year.
You can get an annual or a seasonal burn permit that lasted 12 months, and it was free. And then COVID came around.
It changed it all.
I go in there. They know me. They see me all the time. I'm sorry, sir. We don't do that in person anymore. It's all social distancing. You got to go online to get that permit.
And you got to pay for it.
And you've got to pay for it. And I said this 2 years ago. I says, yeah. It's $2 now. It's going to go up. And I was right. And by the way,
now? $5.50?
By the way, it's $5.50. I never did this thing online. I never gave them my information, never gave them my credit card. I just gave the guys at the fire department a hard time, and they eventually broke down, and they gave me one of the old permits.
Wow. Well, I mean, yeah, it's not worth it to them.
I've done that 2 years now.
Nice.
Now all of this nonsense is over, right? Fauci just came out and he's like, it's over. I went in there just last week, and I went to there's 2 fire departments here in Keene. I went to the northern station. And the guy was at the door, and he was like, "Oh man, yeah, I know it's all over and all, but it's all online now."
Yeah, but we don't want to deal with you people.
And he's like, "I'll go get the lieutenant or the captain. The captain will talk to you." And I've talked to this guy before, and he came out and he's like, "Look, dude, my hands are tied. I can't do anything. This is all
above me.
New
Above
Hampshire,
my pay grade.
New Hampshire land and forestry or something."
That's not true at all. He could write down a sheet of paper saying Conan has my permission to burn on days where burning is permitted or whatever.
Exactly.
If he wanted to, he could do that.
And I told him, I'm like, dude, I thought this was all going to go away after the pandemic was done with. And he laughed. He chuckled. He said he was in agreement with me. He's like, I know where you're coming from, bro, but my hands are tied. I'm like, all right, whatever. I went to the house, got online, went to the state statutes, the RSAs, to see exactly what the stupid law says. Because by now I'm thinking about this. I'm like, well, hold on now. I thought that it was the fire warden's responsibility. Who is this other department that's involved? This state department, and making money off of me. The money's not going to the fire. The $550. By the way, it did go up. It went to $550. Like I said, it would. But my fire department's not getting any of that.
No,
I don't think the state's getting it. So now there's a third party involved.
It's a credit card processor.
So as I began to think about this, it became clearer and clearer to me that this is illegal. They can't do that. The state law says, here's what the state law says. You have to get permission from the local fire warden. That's it. It doesn't say anything about talking to New Hampshire Forestry. It doesn't say anything about a $5.50 fee. Because they include those fees in the state law. If it's
statutorily required,
correct,
it'll be in there.
So I printed it out and I went to the Main Street station and I talked to the guy at the door and I said, "Look, I understand you guys only do this online anymore. I'm trying to get around this." And the guy's like, "I don't know what to tell you, man. This is how we do it." I'm like, No. I just printed the law. I'm looking at here. I showed it to him. I'm like, it doesn't say anything about any of this nonsense. It's online nonsense. I want to talk to someone else. This is illegal. And the dude was like, he's like, let me go find something who might know a little more than I do.
When you do this, you need to get like a red Dale Gribble hat, like Dale Gribble from King of the Hill, and just go give these guys a hard time.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
So anyways,
just look, I've got plenty of time, and it's worth it to me to take all this time necessary to save this $550. So we are going to do this.
Oh, this is a 2-hour ordeal.
Yeah, eventually you're going to back down, and that's just going to be the way it is. We can do it easily, or we can do it painfully.
Well, I was let into the building. By the way, the building's locked down. So
it's always locked down, even before COVID.
No, well, not my station in the North Keene. Oh, okay. It's always open. You can just walk in there and talk to the guys. So anyways, I walk in there. Dude's at the computer. He's at his laptop, and he's printing me out a permit.
Boom. Nice.
I'm like,
is this the chief?
This is one of the lieutenants.
Okay, not the kid that. You
and
talked
I asked,
to before.
we talked for a while, and I asked him like, look, man, this is extremely inconvenient and it's illegal. And the dude's like, yeah, same thing. The hands are tied. I don't know what to do. But he says, but we are working on a program where this will all be automated on the Keen website, where it'll be free again, and you can just print them out, and you're good to go.
Then what's the point?
And I'm like, but he's like,
they don't want to deal with people.
And he's like,
they're lazy.
But I had intended to have it up and running this spring, but I got busy doing other things and never got around to it. All right, so here's my question for everyone, the listeners, and you too. I was going to prepare a communication with the city to have this addressed, to have it brought before council. State law, get the attorneys, our city attorney's opinion of what he thinks is going on, because I'm standing by it. This is an illegal practice. There are people who are paying and being inconvenienced by this nonsense.
Who pays the fire department? Is it the city?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was actually, but I was going to do all of this that day. I had it all. I've already written the memo up and everything. But then the guy was like, Jeffrey, lieutenant. He's like, we're working on addressing this. So my question is, do I wait for him to get down to brass tacks? Or is he BSing me? Is this not going to even be ready till next year sometime?
Bureaucrats. It could take them a decade.
Or do I just go ahead and complete that communication and take it to the city and get this taken care of right now? Because people are.
I don't know if doing the communication is going to get anything taken care of. They can always just take it as informational and blow it off.
Well, I mean,
you could do that.
But I would at least get to hear the city attorney's opinion on the matter.
Only if it wasn't taken as informational. Because, okay, so for listeners that don't know, at least I don't know how it is with every city council everywhere, but here in Keene, New Hampshire, the mayor runs the council meeting. The mayor gets these communications passed to him, and he brings it up, and if he wants to, he can just say, we'll take this as informational. They don't even have to vote on that.
Yeah.
And then, boom, it's off the table. So I would say if you put all this effort into it, go ahead and just go through with it. Put it in, see if a counselor will take it up and see if you can get any traction.
You can always sue him.
That costs money.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Well, I was riled up for a couple of hours there last week.
But he talked you down.
Not so. He didn't talk me down. I figured it out. But it took me some time. And here's my message to the world. You could do what I did in your local municipality, who have probably implemented some stupid rule like this. I looked around. There are a lot of fire stations that have gone only online,
and illegally.
Illegally. Take it up with the man.
The number here is 603-283-6160. You can join us on Free Talk Live.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
I don't believe in homosexuality.
Should homosexuality be outlawed, Rita?
I think not only homosexuality, but prostitution and fornication.
Fornication?
Are you going to pass laws against people masturbating?
I beg your pardon, sir.
Would you pass laws against people masturbating, ma'am?
I'm very much offended that you would ask me such
What, you
a
can't answer a
like
simple
that.
question?
Would you pass a law against people masturbating?
Sir,
I mean, you want to pass laws against two men having sex. I'm just asking
She said she wanted to pass law against fornication. That's just anybody having sex.
Anybody having sex.
Okay, Rita, let's say I have a fiancé and you overheard us having sex. Would you report us to the cops if there was a law against fornication?
You darn right, sir.
Yeah? How dare you?
How
Who
dare
do you think you are?
How dare you, sir? Who do you
How
think
dare
you
I
are?
have sex
Such
with
a
a
moral
consenting
reprobate?
adult?
On my own property?
You're a moral reprobate, and you're one of the ones who are helping to disintegrate this country.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The phones are open and you can join us. Bring up whatever you want. It's 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian. How are you?
And Conan.
Again, you can take control of the airwaves here. And by the way, Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com. They have so many features there at Bitcoin.com. You can purchase cryptocurrency through Bitcoin.com. So if you've never gotten in to crypto, maybe you've dabbled in, just did a little bit of reading and you hadn't quite been ready to pull the trigger yet, well, if you're interested, it might be a good time. I think Bitcoin BTC was around $37,000 earlier today, $37,800 something right now. It's the lowest.
It's kind of painful to hear.
Yeah, it's the lowest point that it's been at in several months. I mean, it hasn't dipped below about 37, but it looks like in just the last, I guess it went a little lower within the last 3 months here, according to the handy Bitcoin ticker widget. That is a very, very cool app to keep an eye on. But it has been as high as $60-something thousand. So $68,000, I think was the record high. So it's down quite a bit from there.
It will get back up there eventually.
I think so. Of course, we cannot predict the future. We don't know what that is going to hold necessarily. But over time, the price of these things has tended and trended upwards, so maybe it's a good idea to get into it. The folks over at Bitcoin.com can help you make that first purchase. And if you're interested in getting things besides just the old Bitcoin BTC, they got Bitcoin Cash. I think they'll sell you some Dash and a bunch of others. It's been a long time since I've taken a close look at it, but I did at one time see that they had. I always thought it was just Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, but they've expanded out. They've got a whole bunch of other options there.
I would have assumed it was just Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash.
It was. I think for some time.
I'm glad to hear that they have expanded.
Bitcoin.com. Check them out over there and check out their news site at news.bitcoin.com for the latest headlines. Speaking of the news, Conan, you've got a story you wanted to share with us tonight about an esports crackdown against, is it Russian players? What's going on?
It's a Russian team. This is just the latest attempt by the powers that be to control the narrative by silencing anyone sympathetic to Russia or anyone anti-Ukraine by counseling them, by removing them from the narrative where they taking away their livelihoods. In this case, taking this team's livelihood away from them because of something that they did. And so there's a two-parter to this. You got the canceling, and then you have the interesting symbol that these people were canceled for. Russian Dota 2 player Ivan Pure Moskalenko. It is a MOBA, which is a massively online battle arena.
Multiplayer online. It's not massively, I don't think.
And it's a very popular sport, especially when it comes to the esports. These arena games are very popular amongst the youngsters. I personally can't play them because I'm not fast enough.
I thought that like Among Us and Fortnite had sort of eclipsed Dota 2 and Smite and League of Legends and all of these others. I thought like
like raw numbers of players?
Yeah, I thought like League of Legends, Defense of the Ancients 2, which is what Dota is, and Smite, I thought they were sort of on their way out, or relics of the past, I suppose.
How team-based is Fortnite?
Okay, good point. I don't know. I've never played it, but I think it's effectively you're on your own team, I think.
I think the allure of these types of games, the Dota games, is it's a team base. So you have a whole lineup and everyone's playing their part. So you're not just following one individual, and I think it's more in line with just sports in general. It is after all called an esport, and they're very popular, by the way. And these kids are making bank.
Yeah, they are making a lot of
money. But as you are,
I think it's funny that
I don't know.
Sports,
I don't know that I have ever watched any of these. I've seen like reactions. I've seen news about these.
Watch the sport, quote unquote.
I have never watched any of these esports. And I've played these. I've played these games. But watching another human being play a game that I could be playing, I don't understand. But But it's the same way with physical sports. I can't watch physical sports either. I consider myself to be an athlete.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we've talked about quote-unquote esports here in the past, and my viewpoint on it is that, I'm sorry, this is not sports in the same way that playing chess isn't really a sport. Like, it doesn't require any actual physical acumen. It doesn't require you to be able to do something better besides press a joypad or whatever. And I say this as somebody who enjoys a good video game, right? So it's not like I'm like anti-video game. But although I'm a little different from you, Conan, not only have I not watched, I've not watched esports because I just don't see why I would care about whatever Joe Blow team is against XYZ team. It doesn't matter to me in any way, shape, or form.
It's tribalism, dude.
But
it's all about the tribes.
But I do understand the appeal of watching someone else play a video game. And I've watched that. I don't do it regularly, but I have done it, so I can say I get it. One appeal would be, I'm mildly interested in this game, but I don't really want to go and buy it and play it myself. I just want to see what it looks like. I want to see what somebody else's experience is. Or there's another side of it of, I know this particular player is particularly entertaining in the way that he or she plays the game and reacts to it, and I want to see their reaction to this game, even if it's a game I've already played myself. Like, what is this person?
Yeah, if the player can actually interact with his audience at the same time,
well, that's not esports. That's just a streamer. We're not talking about esports at this point.
No, we're not. We're just talking about streaming. And
see, I sort of get where both of you are coming from. I understand the appeal of esports because if I want to get good at Smite, I'm not going to watch someone who's entertaining. I'm going to watch someone who's really, really good at Smite. I don't care if they're entertaining or not. I want to learn from the best.
Well, this is how you would do it.
And that would be the point of watching an esport, in my opinion.
I see that.
If I wanted to get good at the game and wanted to improve, then the entertainment value of a streamer is irrelevant to me. I just need the person who's the best of it so I can learn from them, what tactics they're using, what strategies they're using, and things like that.
And these days, because I don't put a whole lot of time into video gaming, almost none, basically, over the last year, if I do want to see what a game is like, then watching a little bit of it can give me that satisfaction of, oh, that looks like it would be a fun game. But I'm almost never motivated to actually want to go and download the game and play it myself, just because I know I don't have enough time to dedicate to it, and I can get a taste of how it is.
Just get it out of your system.
And
usually, for me anyways, it works just fine.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, I don't need to watch any more of this. By the way, sport defined, an activity involving physical exertion and skill that is governed by a set of rules or customs and often undertaken competitively.
See, I don't know about esports, but I certainly think that chess would qualify as a sport because of the stamina that it takes to sit down and use your brain.
And you got to
You both started laughing before I'd even to sit down and focus, and you're basically meditating.
Have you
for
ever?
8 solid hours.
I agree with you. Have you ever seen some of these competitive chess players?
Yeah, I
and
have.
They're smacking that timer as fast as they
I'm
can.
not saying there's no skill involved in playing a video game, and there's no skill involved in chess. But as far as physical action is concerned, lifting up a chess piece ain't much physical action and slapping a clock.
No, but it takes far more physical stamina to sit there and essentially meditate for 8 solid hours, thinking nothing except about this one particular 64 square grid in front of you. That's an enormous amount of physical stamina.
I don't know if it's. I think it's low on the actual sports definition.
I mean, bowling's more of a sport than that.
Yes, and bowling
certainly.
Oh my God.
I don't know
Anyways,
that I would qualify esports as sports, but I think I would.
It's exertion. It's competitive.
It's focus. It's skill. I mean, it's got all. It's got
These
as much
matches
focus.
don't last 8 hours though.
Is that how long chess matches go for?
Some of them do.
I think some of these Dota games are
at the
pretty
world
long.
championship level, yeah, they can get pretty intense.
Wow. All right,
there's a reason I play one game a day.
But what's really interesting is that the esports thing is really kind of catching on. They even have like stadiums now where people play this stuff. It's crazy. We're coming up here. Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. U.S. President Joe Biden says a woman's right to have an abortion is fundamental after reports the Supreme Court is preparing to overturn the federal abortion law. The president urged voters to elect more pro-abortion officials in this year's midterm elections. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
The leaked Supreme Court document suggests that the justices will scrap the law that allows abortions nationwide and instead give individual states the ability to choose. Reacting, President Biden in a statement said a woman's right to choose is fundamental, and the almost 50-year Roe v. Wade law provides basic fairness. He also spoke to reporters.
That's a fundamental shift in American jurisprudence.
The president therefore called on Democrat voters to elect pro-choice lawmakers so Democrats can pass legislation protecting abortion rights. More than half of the 50 U.S. states are expected to ban abortions if the Supreme Court overturns the current federal law. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
With more on the political implications of this leak, here's FSN's U.S. correspondent Simon Marks.
Certainly for Democrats, this is an opportunity to galvanize grassroots supporters who have been pretty unimpressed so far by President Joe Biden and who were lukewarm about turning out this November in midterm elections. There's an opportunity for the Democrats to change all that. But this doesn't cut only one way. It also galvanizes grassroots Republicans who for decades have battled to overturn Roe versus Wade. And now, after reading that leaked judgment, get the sense that they are on the brink of achieving what for them would be an historic moment in rolling back protections for abortion. So this is going to be now a central political issue, I think quite possibly for the rest of this political year.
U.S. markets ended the day in the green after an unsettled day of trading. Investors are bracing themselves for an interest rate rise expected to be announced by the Federal Reserve on Wednesday. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
There were slight gains on Wall Street on Wednesday, with the Dow and the Nasdaq both closing the day up 0.2%, while the S&P saw a rise of 0.5%. It comes ahead of a statement from the chair of the Federal Reserve on Wednesday, where the central bank is expected to increase interest rates by 0.5%. Sarah Walton, New York.
In other news, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has praised what he called Ukraine's finest hour in a speech to the country's parliament. He also used the address to set out further military support for Ukraine in its fight against Russia. And the U.S. ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe has warned that Russia is planning to hold independence referendums in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions of eastern Ukraine as early as this month. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, you've got Ian, Aria,
and Conan.
Phones are open. You can bring up anything you want. You can join us online as well at freetalklive.com. And we have a social media platform there. It's social.freetalklive.com. You can interact with other Free Talk Live listeners and other hosts of the show at social.freetalklive.com. Not run by some major big tech corporation. We're running the server. We're running the software. It's open source. It is federated, which means you can connect with other people on other Mastodon systems, unless, of course, they are not federated. And there are a few like that. For instance, Trump's site, Truth Social, is not federated, from what I can tell. So they've walled off their garden, but ours is open over at social.freetalklive.com, so you can get interactive there. Let's go to Major Payne. He's on the line in Michigan. Major Payne, go ahead. He was there. I just heard something. Hello? Did you just hang up? Major Payne going once? Major Payne going twice? Well, yeah, maybe he'll be back in a bit. All right, so Conan, you were telling us about an esports team
disqualified
because they're Russian.
Well, no, it's because something they did.
What'd they do?
So, Russian Dota player Ivan Moskalenko and the rest of the Virtus.pro roster have been disqualified from a qualifying tournament for the upcoming ESL 1 Stockholm Major after Moskalenko appeared to express support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine by drawing a large letter Z on the in-game map.
Now, we mentioned chess earlier. This has been going on a lot in the chess world. I mean, it's always been true that a lot of the world's best chess players are from Russia, and that continues to be true today, but they're not being allowed to compete in international tournaments if they side against Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's these kids weren't.
Well, he drew a Z.
But
we don't even know.
Someone decided that this symbol, which we'll get into, expressed his support for Russia.
Supposedly, the Russians have Z's on the sides of some of their tanks or something like that. Yeah. It's been associated with them
to determine or to distinguish between the two armies, so you know who to shoot. A Yahoo report says the incident took place during a pause in a semifinal match between Virtus.pro, which played as outsiders, in order to evade an ESL ban on the Russian-based esports teams. So they were banned, but they played as outsiders. Huh.
I got to inform these people, as someone who loves competition, your victory is meaningless if you exclude people who may be the best in the world from competing against you.
Absolutely.
Right. So, oh, good, you're the top chess player in the world, but you excluded all of the Russians who probably could have beaten you. It's a meaningless victory. So if you don't allow these people to compete, and I realize the other teams are probably cheering for this because it's one less team they have to compete against.
But they have bad ideas, Arya.
I don't care. Can they play the game?
The Z was clearly visible on the map, but only for a couple of seconds. Moskalenko's teammates, perhaps anticipating trouble, quickly scribbled over it. And when I say a couple of seconds, I mean the Z is on the screen for 3 seconds. Hey, I'm looking at the video.
Okay. How do they? I don't know this game. Like, you can just draw on the video game map.
Yeah, so to let your teammates know what you're doing, where you're going to be at, and whatnot.
Okay.
Arya, can you see that? And he's scribbling it out. And so someone caught
that. Dude, that is so minor. It
I know,
looks
right?
like I've never played Defense of the Ancients, but it looks like he's drawing a map, like giving his team,
directions,
a plan about, hey, move here and then move here, and it's in the shape of a Z. And yeah, it's up there for just a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
and they immediately start scribbling everywhere.
The letter is significant because of its use by Russian forces invading Ukraine. Z doesn't exist in the Russian alphabet, so what it actually means in that context isn't clear. Some have theorized that it stands for Zapad, Z-A-P-A-D.
We must get rid of this team for using a symbol which meaning is not clear.
What I have from the Russian Ministry of Defense is that it's an abbreviation of the phrase for victory, or romanized za pobedu.
Right,
guess.
so if you're in an esports team, you're allowed to cheer for your team's victory, just not with the letter Z.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the stupidest crap. But apparently, they were already prohibited because they're Russian and somehow got around that.
As being, they played as outsiders. It's in quotes. I don't know what an outsider at one of these esports means.
Yeah, none of us follow esports, so we don't know what that means. You know, this is happening everywhere. There's a story I've had in show prep for a few weeks that, and it's happened now, but it's worth a mention because it ties right into what you're saying. Did you hear the Boston Marathon also prohibited Russian and Belarusian athletes this year?
Are they from Russia, or are they like? Oh, at last I understood it, the Boston Marathon was not an international competition, was it?
Anyone can compete if they're willing to, fly over to the United States and
so these
run.
are people who are here with visas or passports or whatever, and they're allowed to be here.
The only exception is if you, according to the story at Reuters, runners who are Russian and Belarusian citizens but reside outside the country will be permitted to compete, but not under the Russian or Belarusian flag.
Have you seen video of the Ukrainian SWAT teams arresting people for memes,
for speaking out,
for Facebook memes?
Is it like 15 years in
up
prison?
to 15 years in prison for that? Yep.
I don't know.
Yes,
but it was,
we reported on it.
It was rough. Full body armor.
Oh yeah.
Automatic.
No. That was.
Black rifles. Whether they were automatic or not.
That was the nice version because the AP cameras were there.
Yeah.
What's it like when the AP cameras aren't recording?
They're
and
kicking
you're not
your
doing
teeth in.
straight propaganda.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, this petty crap.
And scary that they can get away with this, and they're probably being applauded by many Ukrainian sympathizers over in this country and other countries.
And well, as you pointed out today, the people who were there protesting in Keene, on the other side of their signs was probably a Stand With Ukraine sign.
Yeah. Yep.
And at the same time, the Ukrainian sympathizers are also parroting the propaganda that Ukraine is just all of a sudden, is like about for liberty and for freedom or whatever, and it's a total BS.
It's not full, and it's not full of mobsters and lots of
Nazis.
crime and Nazis. Yes, of course. Whatever its initial purpose, Z has been adopted by civilians in Russia and other countries as a symbol expressing support for the invasion of Ukraine. Russian gymnast Ivan Kuliak, for instance, recently taped a Z to his uniform during a medal ceremony at a World Cup event in March. He faces the possible loss of his bronze medal and a 1-year suspension from competition for his actions. Kuliak stood in the World Cup actions, telling RT that he was expressing his position. Moskalenko, however, denied any political intention behind the Dota 2 scribble. So you're going to be seeing more of this.
Oh yeah,
you're going to have
everywhere.
More
it's
people.
No worse than an American or a British person or whoever making a V for victory during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we call it the peace sign now, but that's what it meant. It was a V, and it stood for victory.
Well, this is. I went to another site to see if there was some more information on the Z. The way I look at it, it is a distinguishing mark that Russians use to determine who their allies are and who their enemies are. I'm looking at a picture of a dude painting a big white Z on the ground. I guess it's a way to determine, and not just tanks, but equipment and even probably property. You put a Z. It's like putting the blood over the doorway, so the angel of death goes on by your house.
Yeah, but there's two angel of deaths here. If you're a Ukrainian and you're a Russian sympathizer or whatever.
Bucha massacre. Who did it? Was it the Russians or was it the stinking? Was it the Azbab?
I'm just saying, if I lived in Ukraine and I sided with Russia in this, I wouldn't put a Z over my door, because then the Ukrainians are going to drag me out of the house and beat my skull in with a bat.
Yeah, if you were in Ukraine, the best bet is to get the hell out.
Well, they say millions have already.
No, but they're closing the borders to men, so you have to sneak out.
Anyone under the age of 65, I think.
Any men under the age of 60 cannot leave.
Well,
because it's freedom over there. It's freedom in Ukraine. They care about liberty.
It's all fun and games.
It has nothing to do with them being Nazi sympathizers or with people who support Ukraine, by definition, being Nazi sympathizers. None of that matters. It's all just Putin bad, and Z is the new swastika.
The symbol gained international attention as it was spotted during the invasion of Ukraine and emblazoned on the side of a Russian military vehicles. Similar markings were spotted years ago on Russian tanks taking part in the Syrian civil war, according to the Evening Standard. As such, many have deduced that the symbol is meant to help soldiers on the ground differentiate their sides' vehicles from those of the enemy, reducing friendly fire.
I'm surprised the U.S. Congress hasn't put forward a bill to ban the letter Z at this point.
It's coming. This is brand spanking new news. It is coming.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power. But there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us in the remaining moments, which are right now. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Also want to say thank you to Curry, who is a Free Talk Live member of the AMPS program. We got a new AMPS Patreon, and thanks to Curry for joining. He's a silver level amplifier, and you can join him over at amps.freetalklive.com. You get some perks, you get some benefits from doing that. You help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. So if you like what we do, it's the best way to directly support us, besides sharing the show, which obviously is an excellent way to help us out. Let people know that you listen and that you liked a certain episode or whatever. Again, head over to amps.freetalklive.com. Let's go to a caller from area code 304. Unscreened call. You're on Free Talk Live.
Excellent. I'm glad you took my call. Maybe, with this, the Boston Marathon Incorporated, the Department of Justice should step in and strike some of the bylaws for the Boston Marathon Incorporated, and maybe even strike some of the rules from the Rule Committee, because it's just unfair, and we should change the contract that they have with corporate United States and do just that. Just in the same way that we suspended paying rent during the COVID-19.
Are you being facetious?
I'm sorry. So that let me finish. We should do that just in the same way that they allowed the federal government to suspend paying rent to hundreds of thousands of landlords so we could put them out of business. Because it's just not fair that they have to go through this kind of unfair treatment. What do you think?
I think you're being facetious. At least I hope that you are.
In the case of landlords, this was sort of an issue that the government created, and then
actually CDC. I don't think the government had anything to do with that.
The CDC came along later.
Is an administrative group that has had authority passed on to them from the United States.
You're looking
Congress,
at this from too narrow a perspective. They were fixing a problem at that point that they had already created, and that problem that they initially created was putting those people out of work to where they couldn't pay their rent. Because the government had shut down their businesses.
We should step in and abrogate contracts.
No, the government should have never gotten involved.
The CDC shouldn't exist. How about that?
I'm sorry?
The CDC shouldn't even exist.
Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah, no one here is saying that any contract. There's no one here on this show saying that any contract should be violated or a government should be doing anything of that sort.
Right, but I'm just saying. Well, for example, when you talked about denying the Russians access to a specific game, that is an incorporated entity, and they do have bylaws and rules committees that create their own rules. So stepping in and doing that is basically violating the Article 1, Section 10, the Contracts Clause in the United States Constitution.
Yeah, no one here was saying that the Boston Marathon should have the government step in and force them to accept
absolutely
anything.
Not. But I'm just saying that to say that this is unfair, fairness, what does fairness have to do with contract law? It's what we agree upon. Both.
Well, I didn't agree. I don't run the Boston Marathon. I don't give them any of my business. I'm not interested in supporting them. And it's absolutely, completely legitimate in a marketplace of ideas and businesses or whatever for people to speak out against what market actors are doing. It's their little organization. They can set whatever stupid rules they want to, just like this esports game that Conan was talking about. They can ban Russian players if they want to, and I can never give them my business if I want to.
What we need Elon Musk to buy this esports team.
Well, I'm just making the point that I heard that you said that they can't lay claim to being the best athletes in the world. So
who can't?
I don't know if that's the claim they made. But
they've lost the ability to prove that. So now that they've been eliminated,
I see.
So now they don't have the opportunity to show off their skill. Now maybe they're not maybe they're not good at all, but they could be the world champions.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But now they're not because they've been banned.
The issue is Article 1, Section 10, Contracts Clause.
All right, man, we heard you. Thanks for the call. We didn't agree to the Constitution. We didn't sign it.
Yeah, I don't care what's in it.
So screw the Constitution. It's a piece of paper, and it should have no jurisdiction over anybody living and breathing today, except for those who swore an oath to it.
I think one of us said that this banning it might be completely legal. I mean, I'm sorry. It is.
Sure,
whatever contracts, whatever bylaws they have. But I think one of us said that it's not fair. It doesn't sound very fair to me.
It's stupid. It's
it's dumb.
It's so petty. Like, why are you going to punish somebody simply because they were born somewhere you don't like? I mean, they may not even
sympathetic to something that you have been told not to agree with.
In their defense, it does sound like Valve was willing to allow these people to compete as long as they didn't say they were from Russia.
Same thing's going on in Boston Marathon, where if you're not actually from Russia directly, meaning you didn't travel from Russia to go, if you're born in Russia but living in the United States or living in the UK or whatever, you were allowed to compete in the marathon, but you simply could not compete under the Russian flag.
Well, these people could still live in Russia as they competed. Mm-hmm. They just had to compete from country unknown or whatever.
Yeah.
I still haven't figured that out. I'm trying to look it up.
It's still petty.
It might be their team name as the Outsiders. I'm not sure about this.
Well, let's go to Major Payne. He's actually here with us now. Major, go ahead.
Yeah, the Outsiders was an old book about some young rebels.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, the Z thing.
Rebels versus the Squares. And I always sided with the Rebels myself.
Yep. Anyway, the Mark Z, they may be scared of old Zorro himself. The ghost of the Spaniards is going to come back and haunt them.
Yeah, they're going to have to. They're going to what you. I said this is brand spanking new news. You're going to watch something like Zorro is going to be canceled. They're going to. Netflix is going to take all the old Zorros off.
I'm going to do my best to get that trending on Twitter tonight.
Good.
Are you kidding? That would be hilarious.
I mean, that is his. He goes around town
with a Z.
With a Z, he's cutting it into everything.
Yeah. I just don't think the Russian Z is well known enough in the popular lexicon.
Not yet. This is brand new. And by the way, they were painting Z's on captured Russian buildings. Not just their tanks, but they would go and they would move into a neighborhood and they would capture it and they would put Z's on it to distinguish that they had been there. And
what else,
been
Major?
done that.
Conan, the ball-bearing man. It's nice to have a fella with balls of steel.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's all about Conan. What is best in life? Balls of steel. That's
balls of yes. Unless it gets cold and they slap together trying to get warm, make sparks.
Oh God!
All right, Major. Was that it?
No. I'm thinking about the sports thing you guys are talking about. This esports business. I mean, sports requires a minimal amount of physical dexterity and skill, but at a bare minimum, hand-eye coordination. Bowling, shooting a bow, a gun, anything. You got to be able to line up two things.
Dude, I would challenge you to watch some of these esports competitions. The dexterity these people have when it comes to clicking in the right places and tapping the right buttons at the right time, it's actually not as trivial as you might think. I mean,
I don't know.
Dude, no. And these kids are musicians and they know their instruments. They are good.
When you've been using,
that's why I can't play against them.
Like, take 3 minutes just to watch the world record of Minesweeper, right? The really simple old. I mean, you laugh, but think about how fast you have to click and how accurately you have to
There's
in order
no doubt
to clear
there's
that board
skill,
in
but
90
I'm sorry,
seconds. That's a
not
remarkable
sport.
level of hand-eye coordination.
It's skill, but it isn't a sport.
It's all about it requires dexterity. I just read you the definition. An activity involving physical exertion. That's it. Mostly competitive.
I don't count clicking a mouse physical exertion. If it was, then you'd have people getting exercise playing the Minecraft.
How many esport dudes? How many fat esporters have you seen? These are all lean kids for whatever reason.
I can't. I don't think I've ever seen a single esports actual player. Wasn't there that?
They do tend to be skinny though. Yeah,
they do.
Yeah, from what I've seen.
If the only fat muscle on your body is your thumb, you're probably not working hard enough.
Thanks, Major. I appreciate it.
I don't know. They're making bank.
No one's winning esports with their thumbs either. You're not going to win any esports competition using a video game controller.
This is mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I mean,
you consolers can
I'm not
go
saying
away
they're
with
not making money. I'm not saying I'm not trying to take it away from them or anything like that, Conan. Good for them. I think it's great that people can make money playing video games.
And they're working. They're part of a team, and they're all coordinating, and they're There's a lot of strategy involved.
I'll give it to you that it's not a sport in the same way that being in an orchestra isn't a sport, right? You could be the best keyboard player or pianist in the world, and that requires a remarkable level of finger dexterity and hand-eye coordination.
And there are definitely better players than others.
But is that a competition?
It could be.
There are competitions. Battle of the Bands and stuff like that.
Well, then
None of that makes it a sport.
That is a sport.
No, it's not.
Just listening to some musicians play, not a sport. But when they're competing with other bands, Battle of the Bands, now it's a sport.
I don't agree.
Out of time for tonight. If you didn't get in tonight, Sarah, you can call tomorrow. See you online in the meantime at freetalklive.com. Don't forget our chat server where you can now video and voice chat direct with other users. Chat.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means, stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. U.S. President Joe Biden says a woman's right to have an abortion is fundamental after reports the Supreme Court is preparing to overturn the federal abortion law. The president urged voters to elect more pro-abortion officials in this year's midterm elections. FSN's Nick Harper reports from Washington.
The leaked Supreme Court document suggests that the justices will scrap the law that allows abortions nationwide and instead give individual states the ability to choose. Reacting, President Biden in a statement said a woman's right to choose is fundamental, and the almost 50-year Roe v. Wade law provides basic fairness. He also spoke to reporters.
It's a fundamental